Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video. So today I'll be no damaging the entire game of Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. And by the entire game, I mean the entire game, because everything in this game can be no damaged. This video shows you how to do it. I will also show you how to get the big boss rank while collecting every single dog tag on extreme difficulty. And I have set the time codes to show off when exactly I segmented my run, because this is still a segmented run. And I have pinned a comment time coding at what point I collect every single dog tag in this game. So now the question is, I'm on the edge of my seat, why are you doing this? Didn't you already make another 2-hour and 50-minute video, no damaging the entirety of Metal Gear Solid 2? Well, I have some regrets about that previous video. Number 1, I didn't no damage the entire game. Some of the sections near the end, I took damage because I thought they were impossible. Number 2, I did not get the big boss rank. In that previous video, I killed a lot of people. I got caught a few times. I used way too many saves. And number 3, I did not get every single dog tag. In fact, I got no dog tags because my previous run was on European Extreme where there's no dog tags, but my favorite way to play the game, and the way I play it normally when I boot it up, is getting all the dog tags in this game. And here's our first dog tag right here in this hallway. Very simple one, but getting all the dog tags from the enemy is the most fun way to play Metal Gear Solid, and my previous video didn't reflect that, so I've come back for a redemption run. How am I going to keep another 2-hour and 50-minute long commentary about the same game interesting? Well, stay tuned and you'll find out. In fact, I just used a piece of tech here which I didn't really use much in my previous video. Nutsack tech. Am I allowed to say that in the first 2 minutes of my 2-hour and 50-minute long video? Maybe, but basically, instead of wasting tranquilizer ammo, I should instead hit an enemy in the balls and they'll get knocked out immediately. They won't have the tranquilizer stun state, which does last longer than the stun state, but it should knock them out if you're just quickly going through there. And also for that specific room, you shoot the enemy twice with a tranq, and then you go upstairs, and you do it quick enough so that the other enemy doesn't catch you, because in that specific room, we're not going to get any dog tags right now, because one of those enemies is going to retaliate and say, who do you think you are? And then you have to shoot them with a real gun, and then and only then will they give you a dog tags. And also, we're going to return to that place backtracking, so we can just skip it for now. But we do get a dog tag from that enemy in that area. But down below is another enemy, which we're going to get back in the backtrack section of this run. But this run has steps, which I did follow. And I like to tell you the first steps I took for my first save. First save steps, go. Step 1, collect first tag and M9 ammo in first hallway after start area. Step 2, collect 1 tag in shadow showcase after ignoring rest area. Ignoring a funny way is a funny way to put it. Step 3, collect 3 tags in area before Olga and loudly move past first enemy to draw in second enemy into your area, and enter room on right to spawn in third enemy, and also enter the kitchen to change enemy spawn location coming back. That's what I'm doing right now. So, you know, if my words don't make sense, hopefully my visuals do. Step 4, fight Olga for tag. Do the cheese method where you go down for ammo, then you put your back against the wall in the middle to draw her attention there, and then you pray you land the shot in the square hole and commit to cheese and get USP ammo and exit again for another tag from another enemy. Step 5, in deck D, when you're backtracking, get 1 tag from guy inside the kitchen where you run quickly to get him to break his arm and leave. Step 6, in deck C, get 1 tag, and in deck B, get 1 tag from a lower area enemy. In step 7, deck A, get 3 tags when you shoot glass to hold up 2 enemies, and then you get the third guy on the left. Step 8, go down doors to backtrack to the starting area. Step 9, in starting area, you get 3 tags, which are 1 on the left, and then 1 on the right, and then 1 on the top left, and then hang down to enter the same door from the beginning. Step 10, in engine room, you get 3 tags on the right and 3 tags on the left, which involve a guard coming down, and then shoot the exclamation point of the guy going down the hallway, and then third guy upstairs, also 1 more tag when you reach the lasers because an enemy spawns in. Step 11, there are tags in the scary hallway where you shoot the wall to distract the first guy, then the second guy, and the third guy are easy to get. And then step 12 is save at abysmal dog shit. The first save I land is at the tanker ambush, and yeah, I just described a bunch of stuff which hasn't happened yet, but I thought I'd get that out of the way real quickly. I had a similar method for no damaging the Silent Hill games, and when I mentioned my steps in those videos, I said them in a really slow fashion, but I'm worried that this game is really fast-paced, so I just kind of want to get those out of the way, and hopefully my pronunciation is clear enough that you kind of get it. So yeah, previously I mentioned the strategy for Olga. It's very strange. You have to kind of go down, you have to go in the middle, and you kind of like have to mess around with her AI, where you make her go to that spot, and then you shoot her in the head when she's in that spot, and you'll kind of get her in a looping animation where she kind of goes in and out, in and out. But if you don't do it correctly, the cutscene happens where she goes, I've been with this unit all my life. You don't want that to happen, and honestly, I'm not 100% sure how to not trigger that cutscene, but if you follow what I do here to the T, you probably shouldn't, make that cutscene trigger, and also don't miss your shot. If you miss your shot once, you might trigger the cutscene, and if you miss it twice, the cutscene's definitely happening, and you do not want that cutscene to happen. Sometimes when doing this run, I would actually no damage her normally because I mess up the cheese strategy, but the cheese strategy is the most efficient and also the most efficient way to no damage her in terms of not taking damage yourself and also in terms of time efficiency, which is important. It's important to mention the requirements for a big boss run. In order to get the big boss rank at the end of this game, you need to do the tanker and plant section combined. You can't just do tanker or plant by itself. It needs to be on extreme difficulty or higher. The time has to be 3 hours or less. You have to use 0 continues, 0 rations, 0 kills. You can only do the alert mode 3 times. However, those 3 times is actually lying straight to your face because there's 3 forced combat sections in the game, and that's what they're talking about. So really, you can get 0 alerts. The shots fired have to be 700 or less throughout the entire game. In terms of mech damage, you have to kill under 60 mechs. That includes cameras, ciphers, MG rays. Yes, the Metal Gear rays count towards this. That's one of the final boss fights of the game, and you have to fight either 20 or 25 of them. So really, the actual number is 40. Under 40 camera, ciphers, so on and so forth. Damage received, 10 health bars or less. So if you take more than 10 health bars worth of damage, you will lose the big boss rank, but I'm going to do no damage for this entire video, so it doesn't really matter. No special items, no stealth camo, no funny hair, and no radar, so you have to turn that off. My notes sometimes don't really encompass the entire frustration of playing this game. For instance, a lot of the time when I shot my gun here, the enemies would just hear me. Sometimes I shoot his arm and it'd be A-okay, and sometimes I shoot his arm and suddenly the entire area goes on alert, and I don't know what, what causes it. This is a new game run, by the way, not New Game Plus, because if I was playing New Game Plus, you can climb a certain tower at the top of this tanker and get a silencer for the SOCOM, and that makes things a lot easier, but I'm going to do the entire tanker section with a really loud SOCOM pistol, so you have to kind of, manage just how far away you are from the other enemies in order to shoot that thing, in order to interrogate certain enemies who don't want to give you your dog tag, and there for the camera, you have to wait for it to not be looking straight at you, and then you run straight through that area and do that. And another funny thing is that at the very top of the tanker, I got a dog tag from one of the enemies, and then I just ran past him and opened the door. That is a thing you can do. It's really funny. You could mess it up. Sometimes I ran through there and I shot him with a SOCOM, and it didn't kill him, but it was just kind of inefficient. And there I'm kind of going up and down in order to not make Snake cough, because sometimes in the beginning of this game, Snake will cough because he gets a cold from the rain, and then when you're coming back from the Olga fight because you're in the rain again, Snake might catch a cold again, and this cold can sneak up on you in very devious ways. It snuck up on me when I was in the engine room, and it's like a whole hassle there. And this section here also has a bit of a strategy, which is a little bit weird. You have to shoot the glass, and you really have to hope that the glass, brings together the two enemies. You have to kind of really time this really well, that when you do that freeze, the other enemy doesn't get too far away from you. The way I did it here isn't exactly ideal, but it works. Hey, check it out. And I guess you also have to watch out for which enemy is the correct one to hold up. And alongside the big boss requirements, there's also the game over screen in the plant section of the game, which honestly might be a little too early to mention this, but every time you get a game over in the plant section, the game over screen will actually tell you important stats related to what you're doing. And it comes in this order. So there's arm strength, which is the number of pull-ups you've done. There's the prude endurance, there's the number of times the player has saved. There's the aminous ED, that's the number of ammo you used. And then there's the alert num, which is the number of times alert mode was triggered, and this is really useful to check because sometimes you might activate an alert without knowing you actually activated an alert, and this happened to me later in the game, and actually I'm going to mention it later. And then there's the one called newt, which is the number of enemies kills. This has to be 0. And then there's the digam amount, which is the amount of damage suffered, and you can actually get this to 0 all the way to at the very end of the game, despite some contradictions which might pop up during the torture sequence, but I'll explain that more when we get there. And then there's the Campo SE, the Campo SY, and the Camp POSZ. This is camera coordinates at the time of death. This is not very useful for Big Boss Run. In fact, the rest of this isn't really very useful for Big Boss Run. It's just like coordinates. And here I'm really messing up this no damage. Oh my gosh, this is so risky. Like, this also wastes a lot of time, but yeah, I'm just doing like melee attacks. You know, if you mess this up even like a little bit, the enemy will get the jump on you, but I'm just landing very correct melee shots. I shot him like 3 to 4 times. He's not dead. He's heavily injured. He feels so sad and like angry because like, dude, you just shot me 4 times. Why did you do this? And we don't have the coolant, so we can't wake him up very quickly. However, he's only stunned. He's not asleep, so it's not going to take too many, like, what do you call this? Like a lawnmower technique to wake him up, and then we finally wake him up and we get to do this whole thing. This does kind of throw my whole rhythm off. This is not the right way to do things, but it worked out. You know, I'm just so glad it didn't take damage. It's nice to include funny mess-ups in a run like this, and, you know, you can mess up and still get the rank. But it's best if you don't do that and you just do it correctly. I just, like, messed up the hold-up. So you get the one guy there, and there's going to be a guy on the right here. And because I messed up my timing, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious about how I approach him. You know, I'm going to be seeing, where is this guy? And if you don't see him there, he's, like, straight in front of you. And then there he is. So there's 2 guards here, which have, you know, you have to do this to them. The other guard, you don't have to do it to. And another thing you should keep in mind is that you might be tempted to knock these guys out normally, but these first 2 guys, you want to trank them. You do not want to hit them in the nuts, because hitting them in the nuts keeps them stunned for a very short amount of time, so that by the time you reach the 3rd guy and enter the next area, a caution state will actually happen because they woke up too early. And there's some cold medicine there, which I probably should have got him, but whatever. So it's actually important to tranquilize those first 2 guys, and then this guy you can stun and not waste tranquilizer ammo, but the other guys, you really do want to trank them. It's very important to the timing of this whole thing. And here I'm going to mess up the whole collision thing. It's like, that one's really fun. Not the last time that happens, but sometimes you really have to put them in a very, like, correct position in order to actually, you know, hold them up. Actually, for the enemy to be afraid of the gun to the point where they'll, you know, shake around and give you a dog tag. And here, boom, we're going to use the hanging mode and then go down and then boom. Now, fun fact, we're never going to have to upgrade hanging mode past level 1, and I'll explain that more later. And I should also explain that I did not come up with all these strategies for this big boss run on my own. I studied many YouTubers in order to create my own run, and I have to shout them out right now. Shout out to Droogie1XP for their big boss all dog tag speed run. For his strats made my video possible, and just like the elegance of that video is just so gorgeous. You have to watch that. It's a classic run. It's a bit of an oldie. In fact, it's played on the original PS2 and it's recorded with like a pretty old capture card, so it's like 480p. It's a bit like hazy exactly what's going on. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening in certain parts of the video, but my goodness, is it just lovely, lovely run, man. And it was done in 1 take, no saves. I did it in 8 saves, you know, like the max amount required for big boss. You can't do 9. Once you do 9, you negate your big boss run, but he did it no saves, and his video's faster than mine. It's like 2 hours and 11 minutes instead of 2 hours 50. I take a bit more of a cautious approach in certain areas, and we're finally in the engine room. The engine room is one of the most complicated parts of the tanker. Not too complicated, but it's a big area, and there's actually some fun facts about this area which I want to mention before I shout out the rest of the YouTubers. At the very top of this area, there's like this little string that connects from the beginning of the area all the way to the other side of the room, and you can use that, well, to navigate to the other side of the room. Though for my strategies here, that string is meaningless, but I played this game since like 2016, 15, 14. I played the Xbox, no, I think maybe even 2013. Might actually be like all the way back there. I played this game around the time Borderlands 2 came out, but I played it on the HD collection version because my first exposure to Metal Gear Solid was the Xbox 360 HD collection version of Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker, and I started with Snake Eater, and then I played 2, and then I played Peace Walker, and then I played 1 when I borrowed my friend's PS3, and it's like a whole story, and okay, that was a really weird frame, like he zoomed in really far here, and here I'm going to show you a piece of tech which you'll never see again, but it's such a cool piece of tech, and I didn't even know this existed until like now. So, like, besides the fact that I didn't know that that one, like, you know, wire shortcut existed until now, I also didn't know that you could do this. And this is useful if you want to put an enemy, you know, to stunned, but you don't want to put him to sleep, because if you put him to sleep, it's going to take a little bit too long to wake him up again, and it'll kind of ruin the whole rhythm of the video. But you see, once we reach the plant section, we're going to have the coolant, and the coolant basically solves this problem for us. But since we're in the tanker section and we don't have the coolant, then we kind of have this issue, but we have this unique way of dealing with the issue. So if you're playing this game without the coolant, then I guess that's one way to kind of deal with not using the coolant, but the coolant's really useful and I'm using it and it's all good. But yeah, no, that wire, I didn't know it existed until now. It's like, how many years has it been? Like 10 years, 11 years? And I'm figuring out new things about this game those two things I mentioned before are new things I'm figuring out like 10 years after the fact. And well, the game's even older than, 2012 or 13. It came out in 2001. It's one of the PS2 launch titles, and yes, this footage does come from an original PS2. I am playing a PS2 English copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 Subsistence. Why am I doing that? Honestly, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, it just fascinates me that the original Metal Gear Solid 2 ran at a smooth 60 FPS on original hardware, because Snake Eater ran at 30 FPS on the original PS2, but Metal Gear Solid 2 was a smooth 60 from the start. So this is not emulation. This is not like improvements from an HD collection. This is how the game originally played. Oh, there is a bit of upscaling happening, but it's happening through the RetroThink 5X. It's a upscaling device which I've used for some of my previous no damages, like Ice Age 2, the Meltdown on the Nintendo Wii, and it basically allows me to upscale the 480p or 480i footage of the original game to 1440p natively without ruining how the game originally looked. I'm also using like certain cables to get a little bit more quality out of the game's visuals. I'm not using the normal RGB like cables, which are just kind of the normal thing for the PS2. I'm using like something called like a YPB, PR, and something else at the very end, and it just squeezes out just that extra little bit of like visual quality to make it look way nicer nowadays. And yeah, no, the RetroThink 5X is a bit of an expensive upscaling device, but it just looks so nice, and it's done well by me. I can play it on modern TVs, but playing this on an original CRT TV, like a really nice one, is still probably the best way to go. But recording footage of an original CRT TV with the modern landscape and then uploading it to YouTube is like a whole other thing. So the strategy there, you have to shoot that side of the wall, then you have to kind of approach him, and man, do you have to time that correctly, because if you don't time it correctly, then it just kind of screws up your whole thing. Now, the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory, so now I want to shout out some more people. So yeah, number two, because I already shouted out my number one, Droogie1XP, thank you so much. Number two, shout out to IQ Gameplay for their tutorials on how to glitch the Tengu fights at the very end of this video, because if I couldn't glitch those fights, I couldn't no damage those fights. But now I can no damage those fights, and I can do a complete, comprehensive, full no damage of this game, and it's just wonderful. And also shout out to Apache Smash's streams for revealing that no damaging everything in Metal Gear Solid 2 is actually possible. I have to shout him out, because without him, I don't think I would be doing this video. So yeah, no, just big, go check him out. And also shout out to Cluster 7 TV for their ghost run of Metal Gear Solid 2, which it's just super cool. Their strategies didn't really help me out specifically because I'm not doing a ghost run, but the things I saw from that video is just incredible. It's kind of a modern video. It didn't come out like too long ago. In fact, the video which I saw, the ghost run of theirs which I saw, they actually uploaded another ghost run after I saw their original ghost run like a few days ago. It's like they just updated it while I'm making my own video. It's just like, what? And the new video is even better. It's some crazy stuff. You have to watch that video. And also shout out to George Salonique. I've mentioned him before in my Snake Eater video. His video revealing all the secrets of Metal Gear Solid 2 provided some pretty useful tech. And now I have to stop mentioning people and I have to talk about abysmal dog shit, the tanker section. So before I played it in a much different way, well, before I killed some people, but here I'm just playing Gears of War. I'm popping in, I'm popping out. Yeah, anytime an enemy tries to shoot you, you have to kind of shoot them back. And this is also where I pretty much activated my first save of the run. That people do not want you to do that. People recommend that you drop your first save when you reach like the plant section or when you reach the bomb disposal tutorial. But just for my own sanity, I decided to save at the beginning of this, because if I had to do the Olga boss fight and this back to back every time I failed, I just lose my mind. Because the Olga fight just has like a few things which just are kind of a pain in the ass to activate. And this, if you fail this, it just becomes really painful. Though I will say, repeating this over and over and over and over, this part became kind of easy for me, but you really have to learn how it feels. You kind of have to get a feel for quickly going to where the enemy is, and you have to get a feel for when the Three Musketeers are going to come out. Because, well, when the Three Musketeers come out, it's actually pretty easy. You pretty much just like stun the first guy, and then like the second and third guy are going to be standing still while they're waiting for the first guy to fall to the ground. And yeah, I mean, check that out. There's something which I did not do in that no damage, but you can do it if an enemy throws a grenade at your location. Instead of running away from your cover and then like, running back to your cover and risking getting shot on the path back, you can actually, push yourself against the cover and like in third person and then press the shoot button to kind of, go out and shoot. and you have iframes during that animation. In fact, you have so many iframes that you can basically tank anything which comes your way, and I'm going to abuse that to a much funnier degree later. Pressing triangle to hang on to that piece of, railing is such a pain in the ass. I failed it so many times. I just spam that triangle button super hard and just kind of pray to God that the snake actually grabs it. And the reason why you don't have to upgrade your grip level is that if you have a full health bar, your grip lasts longer than if you take damage. So if you took damage before this point, you can't do what I'm doing here because your grip doesn't last long enough. It just runs out much quicker. You know, the game kind of has clever tricks with stamina and whatnot. So here we're going to get a dog tag in this army section. And I also have steps for this save, but there's a few things I need to mention before mentioning those steps for this second save. So yeah, number one, I have to shout out John Hub of 100%ing Yakuza Games fame for telling me about the source record filter on OBS. That's how I was able to record my no damage video and stream my process at the same time. So if you want to see me streaming this game and recording the clips, which ended up in this video, after a certain point in my Metal Gear Solid 2, gearing into Metal Gear Solid 2 like walkthrough, I do end up doing kind of like a no damage stream of some sort. And also, shout out to James Howell for his Big Boss run and his essay on the game. So his Big Boss run is actually how I did my Big Boss run in my, original video on European Extreme. I followed his strategies. I'm not following his strategies anymore, but I decided that this time I'm going to go out of my way and actually read the essay he wrote on this game's meta aspects, because that's something I wanted to do in my original video. I did not do that, but now I did it, and I'm going to mention, certain points from his essay, throughout this entire video, so just kind of, keep your ears open whenever I mention James Howell's essay on Metal Gear Solid 2. So then we're going to get this guy, and then we're going to take some photos. So we're going to take 2 photos in particular during this section. We're going to backtrack through this area because there's some people on the bottom floor of the first parts of this military hold, which, you can't get them if you go through the roof of the area. So we're going to backtrack to get them. And these dog tags are actually only available on the subsistence version because if you play the original English release of Sons of Liberty, there's less dog tags to get and, less of a challenge. So I decided to play at the subsistence version. But I hear that the Japanese Sons of Liberty release of the game actually has all the dog tags which subsistence has. But I'm not playing the Japanese copy of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. The original Drugi 1 XP video does play the Japanese copy of that game, but I'm not. And here, there's probably another way to reach this guy who has a dog tag, but I'm just going to wait like an entire minute to actually reach him. Also, I'm going to have to backtrack to John Hub's recommendation of the source filter, of the source record filter on OBS. Basically, when I'm streaming the game, I have a lot of overlays, like my green screen, I have audio from my mic happening, and when I want to record a no damage, run of this game, I don't want any of those overlays over my footage, so source record just locks on to the game footage itself and only records that and only the audio that. So, you can stream the game with all your overlays, but then you can have an MP4 file, which is just the gameplay you want to edit later. So that's really, really useful. But in doing so, in this streaming setup, I would recommend not making the game audio too low, because if the source record thing is picking up audio that's way too quiet, there might be some crackling noises later, so kind of boost the audio a little bit, even if the game is a tiny bit louder than you. No, you should still be louder than the game, just make sure the game is decently loud. I lowered the game's decibels by 6 instead of 11, and that helped out my footage. The strategy you have to do for this specific section is some fucking bullshit, dude. Oh my god, so you have to crouch down, you have to wait for this guy to kind of look at you, and then you do this. And also, you have to run through this area very quickly. You cannot waste any time at the very beginning. You have to go straight down. You cannot collide against the wall when you're going down, because if you waste a single second, instead of the enemy getting curious that you're going to the corner of the room, they'll just catch you, and then the whole thing will it'll be over. So, don't mess that up. It's actually very important, the timing of this section. Okay, so one thing about playing on original hardware is that you do get some slowdown during some of the more ambitious sections of the game. This slowdown is not present in the HD collection of the game. Though, the HD collections of 2 and 3 I do think still have slowdown during particular moments, but the slowdown that existed during some other particular moments in the original PS2 are absent, like the Fortune fight. I'll talk about that more later. Now I have to play catch up with a lot of points I wrote in my outline, which I'm just way far behind on. So number one, you can manipulate the positioning of the enemy inside the dining room in Deck D by entering and activating the camera cutscene when he's more to the left when you revisit the area later. This is something which happened way earlier in the video, but it's very important because if you don't activate that cutscene before the return trip, he's going to be in a different position, and it's going to be harder to get the dog tag, shoot the gun, and it's really loud. It's a whole thing. I'm really glad you don't have to use the SOCOM at all in this, army place, because if you don't have the silencer, you're basically fucked. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you just kill any of these guys, you're basically fucked. The way the AI works with the military guys is completely different from the normal enemies. It's like more restrictive. With the normal enemies, you can kind of let your guard down a little bit more, like when you hold them up in the hold-up state, if you, like, interrupt them by running straight into them, like, bumping into them, they'll still be in the hold-up state as long as you don't unequip your weapon. But with these guys, if you bump into them and, like, you're not, like, pointing the gun straight at them, they'll get aggressive again. And to be fair, I guess they're better at their job. They're, like, marine people and all that. So, like, boom, you like, shoot the guy in the corner there, then you get the dog tag there, you take a photo here, you take a photo in the middle, and then, boom, we're pretty much done with the tanker. You're supposed to do this in one take usually, but instead I kind of saved the middle of the tanker because that ambush is so crazy. But the crazier thing is that every time I fail this next part, I'm going to have to repeat that ambush over and over again, and that's how I got so good at it. Really love these graphics with Otacon, like the sprite work here. It's very charming, very cute. So now I need to talk about more things. So I already mentioned the hidden pathway in the engine room with the wire. I just kind of brought that off of my memory. I have to mention another thing. This is a third thing which I never noticed in like the 12 or so years I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 2. Over the course of 9 to 12 playthroughs, or maybe even 15, because I got the platinum for this game on the Vita. So, you have to get all the dog tags, you have to do all the VR missions. I've replayed Metal Gear Solid 2 front and back. Like 2, 3, and 4 I've replayed the most. In all my time playing Metal Gear Solid 2, I never noticed that Olga has boob physics. What? I never noticed this before. Like, did it get removed in the HD remaster? I actually rewatched my original no damage video where I no damaged the game on the HD collection just to reconfirm if they're there. And yeah, they are there, but I never noticed it in over a decade of playing this game. That's pretty true to life. And I finally have reached the part of my outline where I talk about my second save steps. Go! Step 13, hanging mode and 1 tag until final area. Step 14, final area and then 3 tags and 2 photos, right front, marine lettering. First tag upstairs and second tag go downstairs and wait for them, and then by the third by the box. All of those are on the right side, time to backtrack. Step 15, in hold 2 you get 1 tag on the right, like wait for it, and then exit down on the left. Step 16, in hold 1, you get 1 tag right in front of you, and then you hold back to hold 2. Step 17, in hold 2, you get 1 tag top left, and you switch screens beforehand. Step 18, in final area, you get 1 tag and 2 photos, front, left, and front. Step 19, hide 1 body as right, and then nutsack corner guy. And yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, so I'm actually going to talk about a lot of steps which happen in the future. Step 20, nutsack ninja on AB bridge. Step 21, reach Strut E at bomb disposal start. Step 22, don't defuse bomb and get 2 tags. Step 23, BC bridge, you shoot drone and get shaft. Step 24, start B, you defuse bomb and then 2 tags. First down and then go up inside room. Step 25, AB bridge, 2 tags. Step 26, in Strut A, get 1 tag and go upstairs to get another tag and defuse bomb. Step 27, go downstairs on the right and hide guys inside locker? Enter down area and get a tag, and then climb first stairs on right to crawl to defuse bomb. Step 28, FA bridge, you throw the chaff, then you get 1 tag below. Step 29, in Strut F, use coolant, and then get M9, and then knock out all the top guys. Don't get their tags just yet, we're going to come back later to get them. And then you knock out the guy in the bottom right, and then you hang to defuse the bomb, and then you get the tag from the nearby enemy that's closest to the bomb, and then you wake up the bottom right enemy, you steal his tag, and you leave upstairs. And by the time you leave Strut F, you should get the tags of the bottom 2 guys, not the top 2 guys. Because the top 2 guys, we're going to be backtracking to Strut F a lot, and that's when we're going to get the tags of the top guys. But that's, not here or there. It's later. Step 30. On EF bridge, snipe and chaff and crawl. Crawl to get the claymores. There's like a more technical speedrun way of doing it, but I don't do that. I'm just going to take the safe route. I'm going to chaff, and I'm going to crawl. And also by snipe, of course, there's like a guy all the way at the top of the map. You got to snipe him with a tranquilizer. It's kind of a very tiny thing to see. And here I'm going to put my real name, my real government name, and my real government birthday. But then, step 31, shoot the camera and then leave and come back. And then the next part's going to be, the next save. And why do I have to shoot a camera in there and come back? Because I did not get the silencer when I'm in the plant section. You could do a bit of like a bit of an off-kilter thing, and here I had to turn on the blood because God knows who wants to tone down the blood. And for this section in particular, you don't exactly have to hide a guy in a locker. If you want to do more speedrun strats, you could deal with all 3 enemies at the exact same time, but I kind of just wanted to give myself a little bit of leeway, just get 1 guy out of the way, so the only thing I have to deal with is knock out the guy in the corner of the room again, and then, kind of distract the other guy by knocking on something and not have to deal with the other guy who's also patrolling the room. In my original no damage, I hid all 3 bodies at the same time, but this time I decided to only hide 1 and then just kind of try out my strats with the nutsack thing. And here, this is something which can happen. Sometimes, like, when you... I like to, like, hold the guys in a chokehold in order to set them up for the nutsack, because, you know, once you get them in a chokehold and you let go of them, they're going to be really close to you. But sometimes if you angle it wrong, the enemy will collide with you, and the colliding animation can really fuck you over. It almost did there. I had to like readjust myself 3 times. You know, this is actually very realistic in jiu-jitsu sparring. Well, they don't call it sparring when you're doing jiu-jitsu. In rolling. You know, when you get like a good grip on someone, you don't just stay there because that person moves, they flop around, and you have to flop faster than them to readjust your grip on someone. You never let go of your grip. In wrestling, you never let go of your grab. You readjust, you stay active, you don't get lazy, and that's what was happening there. If you got lazy, the enemy would get the jump on me, but instead I repositioned. Though I will say, it's much easier to reposition in a video game than it is to reposition when actually rolling or sparring in wrestling or jiu-jitsu. My goodness. Oh, it's so tiring. The wrestling position is an exhaustive force on your back. Oh my goodness. Shout out to wrestlers. The amount of cardio you have to do to wrestle. Oh, man. To backtrack to a couple things I did beforehand. Oh, one fun thing you can do is do a flip there, and because it's kind of like a little tutorial cutscene, Raiden automatically adjusts to doing the tutorial animations and not the game animations. But yeah, doing the tanker ambush shootout non-lethally is frustrating, but with enough patience and skill, you can do it. I mean, hey, I did it. And there's vents in the lower holds of the tanker. Like when you're trying to sneak into the Metal Gear Ray place, you know, to take photos of it, you can actually enter that area through like these vents, which you can open in some of the previous areas, which actually lead you into the next area. I never knew this in the... This is the 4th thing which I never knew existed in the 13 years I've played this game. I love this camera angle. I love this shot. It looks so cinematic. Honestly, one fun thing about playing this on the PS2 is just the 4:3 aspect ratio. It looks really nice. Apparently, the HD remasters, they kind of take away a little bit of the space from the 4:3 aspect ratio. Not enough to the point where, you know, like the game looks unrecognizable, but there's like a tiny bit of space you lose because they zoom in slightly on the gameplay angles, but it still looks great. I mean, it was my first HD collection is like my first like experience with this game, and it just feels so nice. But yeah, no, I never knew there was vents. And also, there's like 3 different ways to enter that Metal Gear Ray base where you have to take photos of it. You can enter it from the top, you can enter it from like the middle, or you can enter it underneath the vents. And there's alternate cutscenes for every entrance, showing Snake entering it from different places, different camera angles. I never knew that. That's amazing, man. Also, we've reached the section where Metal Gear Solid 2 starts to get really meta. In James Howell's essay, he defines the term real instead of virtual reality when talking about just the meta aspects of the game, because he doesn't like how loose the term virtual reality is. And now that I'm mentioning this, I don't know what the fuck he means. I guess like that topic's beyond me because I was just kind of confused by what he was talking about, but I thought I'd mention it just so you can kind of have it in the back of your head. Also, something to mention about James Howell's Big Boss commentary run is that he sounds like Patrick Bateman. I mentioned it in the previous video, but I should probably mention it again. And another aspect of James Howell's essay is that apparently during the tanker section, if you kill a guard and throw his body overboard on the deck, a photo of that happening actually like shows up later when Snake is talking to Raiden after revealing his identity as Solid Snake. You know the part where like they're showing like the newspaper clippings? Apparently, if you actually kill some guards by throwing them overboard on the tanker, those photos show up on the newspaper because, you know, the Cypher took a photo of that. I mean, I haven't fully tested this. I'm not even sure if it's 100% real, but apparently it's real. Holy shit, dude. And here, if you're playing on New Game, you actually can't skip the cutscene tutorial of Peter Stillman showing you how to defuse the bomb. Now, why am I playing on New Game? Why not play on New Game Plus where you can skip these cutscenes and not have the cutscene duration actually cut into your time? Because, yeah, if you watch the cutscenes, that actually cuts into your time. You know, for like the final big boss rank, it has to be under 3 hours. Don't you want to save as much time as possible? Well, yes. But an annoying thing about playing on New Game Plus is that if you collect any dog tags on those previous playthroughs, it's going to be a little bit confusing keeping track of how many dog tags you collected. Like, I kind of want that clear, you know, like 54 number or 34 number. I don't want like extra dog tags from the previous things, like just kind of throwing off like the dog tag collection in my inventory. So just because of that little thing, I'm doing it from New Game. And also, it's a little bit more impressive to play from New Game. Though it would have been funny to do New Game Plus, like, you know, maybe the 4th playthrough where everyone's like wearing funny glasses. because the glasses which Raiden and Snake wear are pretty sick. Though I will say the changes which happen in the first Metal Gear Solid are cooler, like, you know, Gray Fox like having Spider-Man colors. That's way more radical. But the glasses are cute. There's cute glasses here. This tutorial prompt, cutscene, Peter Stillman yapping, is actually a great time to yap about other things. Like, for example, I just want to like elaborate on why I love collecting the dog tags so much, because it basically turns Metal Gear Solid 2 into an engaging stealth collect-a-thon. You know how in Donkey Kong 64 you collect the banana and Donkey Kong goes, "Oh, banana." Here you're collecting dog tags and Raiden doesn't make any noises. In fact, it's more the enemies making noises, if anything. The enemies going like, "Ah! Oh!" I really want to play some of the Metal Gear Solid games with a Japanese dub, but I'm just sad that like the English releases just don't have multiple dubs on the disc. I'd have to just play the game on the Japanese disc or emulate or do something else. Like, I think the only time we've gotten access to another language track is maybe, I haven't tested, maybe with the Phantom Pain. Does the Phantom Pain have different language tracks? Or with this new Snake Eater remake in Delta, that gives you the option to play with the Japanese voices, but the Master Collection, I hear, doesn't give you the option. It's like, that would have been perfect. It's the Master Collection. Why don't we have more options? Oh, is this cutscene already over? Oh, that felt longer when I was like running it myself. I would actually take bathroom breaks while Peter Stillman is like yapping about stuff. I mean, yeah, he's not done yapping, but I kind of wish that other one was longer. I am not being efficient about my yapping, but you know, if you play this Metal Gear Solid 2 game normally, you know, you just like walk past a certain enemy. Some of these rooms can be really quick, especially if you just like shoot them out with a trank gun, because the trank gun is like super overpowered. You just land a headshot, then boom, they're sleeping. You know, you get to keep big boss ring. You just run past them. But with a dog tag, you have to actually physically interact with every single enemy inside the area. And when these areas start getting tighter and tighter, and enemy sightlines getting like bigger and bigger on the higher difficulties, things get really complicated. You have to time things correctly. You have to distract enemies correctly. And you have to run things like really, really nicely, especially if you knock out a guy who has to like report on the radio. Just like, there's so many systems in place in Metal Gear Solid 2 to make collecting dog tags such an interesting challenge. And especially if you don't collect the M9 early, because I'm going to do some of these like early areas without the M9. I have to use the SOCOM. I can't shoot him in the face. I can shoot him in the arm, but if I shoot him in the arm, I can't do it too close to other enemies because it'll alert the other enemies. And when the other enemy gets alerted, you know, they'll call in security and you can't get any alerts on the big boss run. So the strategy here is I'm going to run all the way over here. I already mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to cut through the middle, then I'm going to hold him up. I'm going to be as quick with this as possible. I'm going to shoot his arm because I've had so many situations where I shoot his arm and for some reason the alert happens. I don't know what causes it. I don't know if it's like a timing thing. And I'm not going to follow the Drugi's like one XP like strategy, because what he does is he knocks this guy out. He runs all the way down. He gets that guy, and like I just keep fucking up the timing. So instead, I'm going to go for a more crafty solution. I'm going to carry this guy into the hallway. I'm going to like hit him in the balls. Then I'm going to try to like get this guy's attention, because once he starts walking over here, he's going to see like, you know, the unconscious body of his friend. And once he's really close to that body, then I hold him up. I get his dog tag. I knock him out, and by the time I'm done knocking him out, the first guy is going to wake up by then because so much time has passed. Then I knock him out again, and then we continue from there, because in some of my previous attempts, you know, like I guess I'll take like a slower route, but by the time I'm done getting the dog tag of the second guy, the other guy will wake up, and then I'll go into a caution state, and that just wastes so much time. So instead, I'm just trying to control it. See, like that guy is already on the ground, this guy's already waking up, so, you know, I decided to go for a more clever strategy. And I just feel so nice. I feel so awesome that I came up with like this strategy on my own. And yes, we're going to ignore the bomb there because it's actually, we're going to go back to Strut C to get the second sensor, and it's best to leave this as the final bomb. You have to defuse before the whole cinematic countdown sequence. So now I want to talk about something which happens in the tanker section. So when you go down into hold 2, you have to run into, oh, I already talked about this bullshit strategy. Yeah, this part is fucking weird. I hate it. So yeah. And also, I already mentioned that punching enemies in the nuts is easier as Snake instead of Raiden, because Snake's first melee attack is a straight punch, while Raiden's first melee attack is a slap that doesn't go as straight. Wait, did I actually mention this before? But yeah, no. Punching enemies in the nut is way easier as Snake than Raiden, because Snake's first melee attack, straight punch. Raiden's first melee attack, kind of a weird whiff. I mean, Raiden's entire melee combo is better. You know, like the whole slaps and kicks. I love that. But the first attack, not as good as Snake's. And also, there's actually something I do here. When you first get to Strut B, you know, you meet Iroquois Pliskin, and, you know, the whole stuff with Vamp happens. You actually open that door before getting to this area, because you don't want to have to open that door when returning here. You just want it to be open by itself, so you can, like, immediately, like, you know, open that thing. And here, I started running, and I just fucked up this whole thing here. And I saved it. I'm so glad I saved I saved my attempt, but this is not how you do it. You're supposed to walk a lot slower. And also, there's like faster ways of like getting this guy's attention or just like, you know, holding him up, but I did not go for it. And since I wasted so much time, now I'm going to wake up this guy, I'm going to knock this guy out, then I'm going to wake up the other guy, I'm going to get his tag, then I'm going to knock him out again, and then, you know, lolly da, here we go again, the world goes round. You know, I mean, it's funny. It's funny to see these things play out. I mean, I hope it's funny. If it's not funny, I mean, I guess I feel a little sad he didn't find that funny. My accidents. Something which I forgot you can do, I did this on the PS Vita a lot. You can actually make Snake and Raiden say stuff during the codec calls with the R1 and R2 button. Like, I forgot which one is positive and negative, but, you know, during random codec conversations, you press those buttons and, you know, Snake will be like, oh, that's cool. All right. You suck. Ew. And Raiden's like, oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Ugh, what a bothersome woman. You know, like, you can press those buttons to, like, make him say all those funny phrases. So here we have to get the dog tags of these guys. I'm going to go for the guy on the right first because he's usually in the front there. And then we kind of run down here. And the way I mess up here is really strange. Because basically, like, I hold him up there, I get his tag, but then when I run past him, the lock-on blocks onto another person. I unequip my weapon. When you unequip the weapon, then he gets alerted, but, you know, I do a melee attack, then I do, like, the grabbing chokehold attack, and we kind of go from there. That, if you don't know how this game plays, that might be a little bit confusing to understand, but basically, you hit him with a melee attack to kind of, like, you know, get these guys off balance, and then you kind of spam the choke one just to kind of land the choking animation. But when you press the choke button, you can't move, because moving and pressing the choke button is a different input than just standing still and pressing the choke button. You stand still, press the choke button, you choke them. You move and press the choke button, you do a judo flip. If it is judo or jiu-jitsu or whatever martial arts that may be. So here, I'm going to take the tag of the guy in the middle, and I run into this weird situation once again where I have to shoot one of his limbs, and I've been in so many like situations where whenever I shoot one of his limbs, the entire area goes on alert despite the fact that the other enemy is in a completely different room, which is blocked by a door, which I think should be soundproof, but it's not. So instead, what works for me is I drag this guy here, and then I shoot one of his limbs, and that works somehow. So I guess like the time it takes to drag this guy here, the enemy who's in the other room must like walk far enough that he doesn't really care about this. And before I would hide this guy's body in a locker, but what I found out is if you hide this guy's body in a locker right now, and then return to the area later after going to the roof and then trying to go back down here, the enemy will just be out of the locker by then, so there's really no point in hiding him. Though, you know, if you can't like tranquilize an enemy, you want them like, you know, to stay put for an entire duration, putting them in the locker is pretty much the way to go. The locker is the infinite sleep method if you don't have the ability to make them infinitely sleep, you know. If you don't have the ability to kill them, lockers is the second best way of going about it, even though it's not really time efficient. So yeah, we kind of get that guy there, we can stop him in nuts, we go there, and then we're going to defuse this thing, and you know, this should be pretty easy, you know, just make sure you don't get caught by the enemy. And I gotta say that you're recording PS2 footage of this game, the color black isn't really very sharp on the PS2 in Metal Gear Solid 2. You know what will benefit the presentation of this game? Doubly Cinema, AMC Doubly Cinema, sharper whites, sharper blacks, yes. Playing on a CRT might solve this. So yeah, once you go down in this room, you immediately go into this room, you get this guy. There's a camera in this room, but the areas which I will be traversing will never be inside of the camera, so you know, just don't go exploring, stick to the path, and you should be fine. Okay, so once you knock this guy, I'm gonna put him in a locker, because once again, we're going to have to do a lot of crawling to get this, to defuse this bomb, and the amount of crawling you do, by the time you're done crawling, this guy will probably wake up, so it's best to put him in a locker. So this is a good time to put him in a locker. Is there a speedrun method? Yeah, the speedrun method I think is just dealing with the caution state which comes after this, maybe? Or maybe just never knocking him out, who knows? I mean, I've seen a couple strategies, I haven't seen all the strategies, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe I should probably see the ghost strategy on how to deal with it. So, by the way, the guy who did the ghost strategy, he also did it while never using a weapon in the game. He did everything melee-based. He did the tanker ambush melee-based. You can do that if you didn't know. You can basically wait for the enemies to just kind of like ambush your position. You can just punch them in the nuts. That is a valid strategy you can do. It works, and you can no damage the fight that way. I mean, it's more time exhaustive, but it's possible. And also, I mean, this is a pretty commonly known trick to the game, but pretty much like unequipping and equipping your weapon this quickly, the first frame of your walking animation is faster than the rest of the walking animation, so you pretty much crawl faster by doing this. They got rid of this tech in Snake Eater. They basically fixed it, so you can't do it anymore, but in Metal Gear Solid 2, it's fair game. But yeah, playing on a CRT might make the color black sharper. And the HD remaster makes like the black colors, the shadows sharper, and it makes certain parts of the game way darker than how they look on the PS2. And for the most part, I think that's a better visual. But sometimes, you know, some HD remasters might do this, and it might kind of mess up something which works really well with the original visuals. But I think for the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, it works pretty nicely for the most part. In my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage, something which I would do is I would throw a chaff grenade and then I would take out my SOCOM and physically shoot the grenade while it's on the ground so that, you know, it explodes faster. And I never do that in this video, and there's never a big reason why I would do it, but it's a really nice detail. Like I forgot you can do that. You know, like these games have so many fun details, and here I'm gonna mess up in a really weird way, and I'm just glad this game doesn't count this as a kill. If you like hit an enemy in the nuts and you hit them like close enough to the fence, or they fall over the fence and fall to their death and drown, it doesn't count as your kill. It's like an accident. So, you know, I mean, I checked the game over screen, you know, after I got my successful save here, and yeah, it doesn't count as a kill. That's crazy, dude. That's actually insane. And Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all heavily, very cutscene heavy games. And something which the HD collection does is that it makes the cutscenes of Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, like, you know, full screen. Because when you're playing these games on the PS2, since they're, you know, played normally on CRT TVs, and see, what I wanted to do there was shoot them in the head for like a quick knockout. But something you can do is you can shoot them in the body and then do a melee attack to send them to the ground, and if they have one tranq dart inside their body, it will instantly knock them out. So a speedrun thing you can do is that you can just like lock onto the enemy, randomly shoot them with this M9 tranq gun, do a cartwheel to knock them to the ground, and when they're knocked down to the ground, they automatically get knocked out. So you knock out the 3 people there, you go down here, the other guy's not going to see you, despite the fact that, you know, I feel like it should make a lot of noise. Oh yeah, fun fact, so you don't make footstep noises in Metal Gear Solid 2 unless you're walking on a very specific surface, so you can like run at full speed right next to enemies and they won't hear you. That is not the case in Snake Eater and Beyond, but it is the case in Metal Gear Solid 2, which makes certain ghost strats more fun because you can get really, really close to the enemy without sacrificing your speed. Unlike in Snake Eater, which, you know, the sound is everything. But yeah. So, something which, you know, makes the improvements of Metal Gear Solid 4 seem a little bit more quaint is, well, the fact that Metal Gear Solid 4 was the first one to have full-screen cutscenes, because Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, it's 4x3 letterbox, so, you know, if you zoom in into, like, the videos of the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, you can make them full-screen, but when you're playing them on the TV, they're letterboxed. But then 4 was the first one to make them full screen. Like, just a player that goes from playing the games on the PS2 and watching those letterbox cutscenes on the CRTV to a player that goes to play Metal Gear Solid 4 on a brand new, like, flat screen TV, seeing those full screen cutscenes must be insane. But I guess with modern players playing the HD collections, it won't be that crazy to them. They'll just kind of be like, oh yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 had full screen cutscenes, and now 4 does as well, and with better graphics. Okay. You know, like, I mean, they can just kind of, you know, pass, just, I guess that's kind of neat. Well, before, I feel like that would have been a bigger jump. And, you know, I wasn't really there for that because, you know, my first experience with these games was, you know, the full-screen cutscenes with Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. You know, something crazy, which I think the HD collection should have done, but they didn't do, was give you the option to pause cutscenes. Because I think the first time I beat Metal Gear Solid 2, I skipped, like, the big info dump, which Ocelot does, for, like, 40 minutes straight, because I had to go eat somewhere, and I just watched the cutscenes later on YouTube, because I can't pause the cutscenes, I have to go somewhere, I'm sorry! Man, it was so annoying. It was so annoying. The outline I made for this video is probably one of the most packed I've made, like, in my entire history of making YouTube videos. And it's because I watched a lot of stuff. I read a couple things. I watched the making of documentary, which they made for this game, and which was on certain DVDs of certain copies of Metal Gear Solid 2. And in the making of doc, 17 minutes in, they said that they wanted to make Raiden appeal to the player, so they made him pure, virgin, and white. I am taking the quote out of context. They mean like a completely different thing. It's kind of like how Solid Snake is like super experienced, while Raiden it's a little bit more of a newbie. They don't mean like just that quote literally taken out of context. I think metaphors of light and darkness sound a little less cheesy in Japanese compared to English. By the way, I just dropped a save here. So my third save steps would start here, and this room is one of the most complicated in the game. Not as complicated as Strut E, but basically you get the attention of that guy, you hold him up, and then you stay here, you wait for the other guy to kind of like notice you, then you crouch again, and then the other guy's going to come into your area pretty soon, and when he's near the other enemy, you use a coolant to pretty much stun the both of them, and then when they're both stunned, you hold up the both of them, you get their dog tags, and you move on. And something what you really want to do is that when you hold up this first enemy, you want him to be facing straight ahead. You do not want him to be facing near you. Like, you know, you don't want the first enemy to be facing at you, because if you do, once you switch to the coolant, he's not going to be held up anymore. But if he's facing straight ahead, if you switch to the coolant, the enemy can't see you, so he's not going to, you know, stop being held up. That's actually very important. It's a timing thing. You do not want to fuck it up. So you get that dog tag, you get that dog tag, and then there's these two guys, and hopefully they're facing this way. You get this dog tag, you get the other dog tag. You crawl under the table, and then you go all the way to the bottom of the map, and while going all the way to the bottom of the map, you pick up the stun grenade underneath the table, and I think you pick up like a piece of ammo that's nearby. I think it's like for the trank gun or for SOCOM ammo, but yeah. You crawl here, and sometimes an annoying thing is that if a corpse is too close to you, you can't crawl. So that's really annoying. Yeah, you get the M9 bullets, and then if you time everything correctly, the bomb should be getting here shortly. In my previous strategies, I would actually stay where the enemies are and wait for a longer period of time for the bombs to come to me. But the amount of times I retried this section, I just realized, oh yeah, the bomb's right here. So what's the point in wasting time waiting over there when I can just crawl over here? And then I tried, you know, defusing the bomb here, and then boom, we're done with this whole area much quicker, and everyone's knocked out and sleeping and happy, and it's just so beautiful, man. And by the way, at the beginning of Raiden section and the plant section, if you swim underwater, your O2 gauge will be massive. This is because you have an oxygen mask for breathing underwater, like the mask which Raiden first starts off with, which then he takes off on the elevator. It looks cool as hell, but it also gives you a bigger like O2 gauge. And you know, this sounds obvious, but I think it's a fun detail, and I'm sad that you don't get to have a massive O2 bar in future sections of the game where you have to swim. It would have been really useful. I would have liked to give that mask to Emma. Well, it probably wouldn't fit Emma because she doesn't get to have this skin-tight suit. So yeah, here we go to the right. We held this guy up, then we hold up a guy in the middle, and I have an issue with the guy in the middle where you have to shoot him with the SOCOM bullet, but my SOCOM is really loud, and what happens is that a lot of the time when I shoot him in the arm right here and then, the entire area goes on alert because there's one guy at the bottom of the area, which I just thought wouldn't hear it because he'd be sleeping, but I guess I shoot the guy's arms when he's not sleeping. I don't fucking know what changed it, but I just drag this guy here to just have a bit more of a safe route. Boom, you shoot him, you get the dog tag, bada bing bada boom, then you defuse the bomb up there, and then you go downstairs to get the tag there. And one notable thing about this area is that a big cutscene will happen, which will teleport you to the top of this area. So that's kind of like a whole thing. It's probably like self-explanatory from like the visuals upstairs here, the visuals on screen right now. So here I'm going to talk about some of the alerts which annoyed me. So here I'm picking up stun grenades, and you're never going to use stun grenades until the very end of the game, but it is nice to stockpile them because it makes the end of the game easier. I also have an issue with this one enemy where like positioning is a pain in the ass. And this is also like one of the only enemies where like sometimes I just miss the shot on his head. Like, I swear the reticle will be like directly on his head, but I just shoot it and it goes completely past him. I think it's just the way he's angled. It's very awkward. So I've actually failed this section because I would unequip my weapon after firing a shot because I would assume the shot actually like knocked him out, but it actually didn't knock it out because I somehow missed the shot, and then he goes on alert, he kicks me, and I have to do the whole thing over again. It was one of the most infuriating ways to fail a no damage. But yeah, so apparently, another way I failed my no damages is that the alert you get during the tanker doesn't show up on the plant section game over screen until you reach the sniping section of the game. This is a problem because I believe you add to the alerts when you hear the noise when you activate an alert, even if the noise happens as you're leaving an area and the alert doesn't actually happen. So like, I sometimes will like, you know, get these really close calls where like I'd be leaving an area right as an enemy is trying to call an alert. You know, like I'll be right at the door and the enemy be like, I'm being attacked, I see the enemy. And then once you enter the area and you're pretty much like loading the next area, then you'll hear the but when you're in that next area, the alert doesn't actually happen because you basically avoided it, but it counts. If that like noise happens, even if the alert doesn't show up on the top right corner of the screen, if you hear that noise, that specific noise, the it counts, and then you have to like redo your whole thing over again, and it was fucking terrible. Oh, by the way, this section is the most complicated in the game. The timing is crucial. You basically have to like lock onto the enemy over there, you land a shot there, you take care of the bomb there, you run over here, you get this guy, you have to be really quick about getting one in the head because you want to get this guy before he wakes up that guy. And there, I actually shot him in the chest and I do a judo throw to create distance between them because I have to wake up that first guy after I get this guy with the coolant. And sometimes when I knock out that guy who checks the first guy, he's way too close to the first guy, and I end up waking up both of them, which throws me off my rhythm. And the rhythm and timing is still really, really important. You have to be so fast about this, because one of these guards, I think it's this guy, if he doesn't report to HQ, security's gonna come in, but, you know, you're gonna have to, like, deal with all the bombs before security gets close enough to you, before you get to, like, the left side of the door. So timing is so fast. The timing is so fast that after I get this guy's tag, instead of going down the stairs, I'm gonna go into hanging mode and catch the ledge below me. And yeah, it looks, literally, I get the thing and I immediately go to that, because I have to save as much time as possible. Yeah, there's a bomb on the right, there's a bomb in the middle here, and there's a bomb all the way on the left bottom side of the screen. Okay, by the time you're done here, you should be fine. But basically, you want to be, like, defusing the last bomb when, you know, like, these guys are on their last line of dialogue. If you are not on that timing, you're a little fucked, because you basically have to, like, climb the stairs before the enemy's, like, field of vision cone, like, is close enough to you to spot you when you're going up the stairs. If you know what I mean. And that means you need to be really quick on your timing. Like, I have to emphasize, timing is everything here. You can do the exact same steps I'm doing, but, like, if you're a couple seconds off, you will die on Big Boss. Like, I'm telling you, it's really, really important. By the way, something I learned, someone on my stream told me, you know, I was like, you had to, like, redo so many sections over and over and over and over again to get the no damage. And there's a quicker way to exit the game than waiting to die. Basically, if you press all the shoulder buttons and then start and select, you can exit the game quicker than waiting to die. You know, it's very nice. It's like Smash Brothers. I don't even think there's a reason to use the box here, but I decided to use it because it's pretty cute. And also, I'm just not a fan of the Strut B camera angle, which, you know, it's a little late to be mentioning Strut B. We're going to be, like, running into Strut B pretty soon right now, but the Strut B camera angle, when you're inside that room, it's like straight, it's like looking straight down from the ceiling, like that one action scene in John Wick 4, which, to be fair, John Wick 4 came out like like a decade or so, like maybe a few decades after, like, Metal Gear Solid 2. So Metal Gear Solid 2 is actually the first one to do it. Actually, Blowout by Brian De Palma was a movie which uses that camera angle before John Wick 4. But there's probably a movie before the Blowout remake by Brian De Palma. That movie's a remake. That movie's great, by the way. That's a great remake. But yeah, no, that camera angle, I don't think it works for Strut B, because the strategy is you have to, like, go all the way to the bottom of the room to hold up a guy, but I have to basically hold up the guy off screen because the camera angle doesn't show him to me, and by the time the camera angle shows me the enemy, I basically bumped into him and fucked up the whole strategy. So yeah, that's why I don't like the camera angle, the fixed camera angle Strut B. The fixed camera angles in Metal Gear Solid 2 are pretty sick, though. You know, some areas can be pretty frustrating. Strut D can be so frustrating. So yeah, we pick up the sensor there, we're going to defuse the bomb here, and then we're going to start the whole timer, and it's going to be a whole beautiful thing. Like, you're just nearly blind in Strut B, and it's so annoying. Anyways, I finally reached the part of my outline where I'm going to talk about my third save steps. I'm going to take a breather here. Alright, third save steps, go! Step 31, in Strut E, you shoot one camera, then leave area, and then enter again. Shoot the other camera, and then summon one guard over, and then hold up the summon, and hold up, and then summon another guard, and hold them up. Get 2 dog tags, and then run upstairs and get 2 dog tags, then crawl under for stun grenades, and run all the way down and wait for the bomb to show up, defuse, and then go upstairs. I should note I have a different Step 31 written in my notebook, but it didn't work, rawr. Step 32, on Strut E roof, you get right tag, and then middle left tag, and then defuse bomb, then go downstairs left for final tag. Leave Strut E for bridge. Step 33, on DE bridge, you get 1 tag, then enter Strut D from the top. Step 34, in Strut D, you lock on snipe first guard while moving and defuse bomb right at the start, cut across the middle to get dog tag in the middle, run upstairs to get guard investigating first guard, use a judo throw if he's too close to first guard to create space from first guard, shoot coolant and downstairs guard who should be coming upstairs, but if he isn't, you should knock on the wall to lure him and get his tag, wake up first guard, get tag, defuse bombs in bottom middle and bottom left, and then leave at top right. This part requires a tight, fast pace. Step 35, on CD bridge, you shoot camera, then snipe guard, and then wake up for tag. Step 36. Step 35 was the previous one. Step 36 is this one. In Step C, in Strut C, you get Sensor B and defuse bathroom bomb. This will start countdown timer. Step 37, on BC bridge, shoot drone down. Step 38, in Strut B, you go inside room to hold up and take out. Step 39, on AB bridge, snipe right guy and move on. Step 40, in Strut A, you go upstairs on the left. Step 41, on Strut A roof, go straight downstairs with box on. Step 42, in Strut A basement, you defuse bomb on left wall. Step 43, fortune time. Step 44, on Strut A roof, watch out for mines and go down on the right. Step 45, in Strut A, you leave on the right and watch out for guard on the right. Coolant, you can use it to kind of stun him if you want to. Speedrun. Step 46, on FA bridge, you cartwheel on the top. Step 47, in Strut F, you take tag from first guard and move on. Step 48, on EF bridge, I don't know, chaff maybe. Step 49, in Strut E, you run to stairs with box on, then hold up stair guards when you take out, and then get upstairs for bomb defuse. And that's where I save my game. I basically... The next save I'm going to drop is at the FATMAN fight, and oh my goodness, I put so many talking points after this. Oh man, this is such a fast game. I mean, I say this is such a fast game, but it's been an hour! I hope the things I've been saying are actually like substantive and interesting to all the viewers here, because I really want this video to do well, but I really don't expect it to do well. These sort of long videos don't really do well compared to my Yakuza vids. There's some tech during that previous section, which, well, I'm going to have to get past that section because the next save is going to be coming up decently soon. But if you're crawling out of a space backwards and press the stand up button, you seem to stand up faster compared to standing up when you're going forward. Like, I encountered this when running the Strut E strats because I would get the stun grenades and then, like, you know, crawl backwards to stay with the enemies I knocked out at the top of the area. And I crawled, and like, I stood up really fast, and I don't know what affects it, but yeah, there's that. And also, here's something which I think is pretty consistent. If you stand up with the coolant and then equip the pistol in the middle of your getting up animation, you immediately stand up without having to go through the entire animation. That's very useful for Strut D for like saving time. When, you know, you go into the full crawl position to defuse that one bomb, you stand up, and when you're in the middle of standing up, equip your pistol, and then boom, you're fully stand up. You can just immediately start running to your next objective. That's very, very nice. And coming up is the fortune fight, and there's something really odd about the fortune fight on the PS2. And I kind of want to like introduce him when we're there, but we're like right here, but it hasn't started yet. I have to mention that I read Hideo Kojima's autobiography, maybe? I don't know if it counts as an autobiography, but I read his book, The Creative Gene. And in The Creative Gene's introduction, Hideo Kojima comments on how much he loved books, that he would always take a couple while on trips with his family. And I remember that when I was a kid, on one family trip, I brought 10 to 15 books in my backpack, and at a restaurant, I laid them all out, like I laid out all the books on top of the dinner table. Like Goosebumps, Hunger Games, Monsters vs. Aliens, the novelization, etc. I was really into the idea of reading each one simultaneously at the exact same time. My family was not happy with my decision. And here I'm going to talk about the fortune fight. It feels like the fortune fight is actually harder on the original PS2 compared to the HD collision. Look at this thing she's doing. She's shooting the lights, and the lights are falling, and the collision of the lights falling, like, you know, colliding with your character model can actually damage you. I don't remember that happening in the HD collection. And I actually find it much easier to get caught by the fire explosions on the original PS2 compared to the HD remaster. Like, that just never happened to me. Like, when I was streaming this game, I guess I wasn't close enough to the wall. When the fire exploded, my cardboard box caught on fire, and she fucking took my box, dude! Fuck! No! No, my box, man, fuck! So yeah, she just fucking burned my box alive, and I couldn't use it again. And it's actually important that you keep box 2 specifically, because there's a later part of this game, if you want to collect all the dog tags in an efficient manner, where you need to use the Strut E box fast travel system. I've never done this in the 10 to 12 years I fucking like played this game, but I'm finally doing it because it's important for the route I'm following. Like, yeah, rewatching my previous no damage video of the fortune fight and the HD collection, like, I see that Fortune isn't shooting down the lights, and you can't get damaged by that because she never shoots down the lights. And also, in the HD collection, this fight has 0 slowdown. It's so fast, because here's a ton of slowdown. And, well, another thing is that I think the effects work, like the effects animation, seems to be a lot more elaborate in the original PS2 version. I don't know if, like, a lot more elaborate's the correct term, but it seems like there's a lot of effects which kind of lost their luster when they ported them over to HD, like maybe the way the PS2 handled like certain transparencies. Like, whenever Fortune shoots her laser cannon, there's like this gust of wind that follows right after, which is like super detailed on PS2, but it just doesn't really flow the same here. Fire effects seem more detailed on the PS2, while on the HD collection, there's a little bit more simplified. And yeah, you have to watch out for the mines, so I just decided to crawl over. There's probably like a speedrun method where you like follow a certain path where they won't blow you up, but instead I just kind of crawl to kind of keep myself safe. So yeah, no, I never expected Fortune to actually be a tougher fight in the original PS2 version, but yeah, it is. I mean, it's still not too tough. You basically just go back and forth with the box, but then there's certain situations like with the falling lights where you kind of stand still for just a little bit, because if you keep going back and forth, you know, without no rhyme or reason, you're gonna get hit by one of the lights and you take damage. That never happens in the HD collection. Like, what happened when they were porting the game to HD, where that just, you know, that just doesn't happen anymore? I mean, I don't know. It's really, really strange. Also, by the way, speedrun tech, if you hold down the select button, you'll go into forced codec calls faster instead of having to wait for the whole jingle to play, you know, like the tring, tring. Instead of having to wait for that entire music cue to play, you can get into the codec call faster by just holding down the select button, not pressing it, just holding it down. You know how there's certain moments in this game where, you know, there'll be like a codec call, and instead of it being the green color, it's the red color, because the red color is just gonna force you straight into the call. Hold down the select button and it'll just kind of help you get into that quicker. Honestly, that's only really useful for like the very, very end of the game, or, you know, if you're doing a speedrun and you want to shave off any second possible, then there you go. So yeah, when we're returning to the area here on the path to Fatman, you get that guy's tag. You don't get the other guy's tag. We're gonna get that guy's tag in a later backtrack section to get a certain weapon. And also, in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, I learned that you should not press the X button while throwing a chaff grenade. I mean, I'm talking about PlayStation-like inputs, right? So if you're throwing a chaff grenade and you try to, like, you know, do a flip or a crawl, you won't do the sick flip. You know, when you're like running and you press the X button, you do a sick flip. But if you're in the middle of the throwing the chaff animation, Raiden's not going to do the sick flip while throwing the chaff. He's just going to go into crouching position and go into a crawl. And, well, that's honestly the biggest problem with that is when I'm doing the Metal Gear Ray fight. But I feel like this tip and this trick is applicable enough to any point in the game that you should probably know about it so that you don't fuck up. And one fun thing which Raiden can do is that if he's like near the top of the stairs, you can pretty much press that to just instantly traverse near them. And, well, same thing when going down the stairs. Okay, so one advantage Raiden has is that he can flip down the stairs as many times as he wants and not fuck up. Snake, if he rolls down the stairs and he doesn't hit like the ground, he like just eats shit. So there's that. Well, Raiden, he can like flip down the stairs as many times as he likes and he'll never eat shit. But if you flip up the stairs and you don't hit the top of the stairs and you hit the middle of the stairs, Raiden will also eat shit. But eating shit on the stairs doesn't damage you. So in terms of damage, it doesn't matter, but it's more like, you know, style points. You know, if you fuck up, you just look really dumb and silly and stupid. We have now reached the Fatman fight, which is a really good fight, but holy fuck, is it ever the definition of a snowball effect. If you let this guy get the advantage in any way, you basically fuck yourself. So the strategy is you defuse this bomb here, you go all the way here. He's going to shoot you with a machine gun. I don't remember this happening in the HD collection, but I think that does happen. I just forgot that it does. And then we're going to land a shot there, and then he can take 3 different pathways. If he takes this pathway, just go down here and you'll be there. Sometimes you'll go down the hallway I just went down, so instead you would wait for him to go down the hallway and then kind of shoot him there. And sometimes he'll just go straight past you, and I would kind of like hug one of the containers on the left so that when he collides against me, he doesn't collide against me. I pretty much try to get as close to the wall as possible so that the collision doesn't happen, because every time you collide against this character model, you take damage unless it's like from behind. Because sometimes I would touch his character model while it's moving, but because I was like behind him, it doesn't count. But if he's like running towards you, like in the front, you do take damage. For the most part, if this character model collides against you, you take damage. And also something funny I found out is that every time you like run up against the character model when he's on the ground, there's a little bouncy noise like boing, 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 because he's very fat and stupid. A fun thing you can do with this fight is that if you land a trank shot on his head fast enough and precise enough, you can deal double damage, and it takes a certain timing. It's very strange to explain. And see, there you can see, there's a moment in this fight where he's at like the bottom left corner of the screen, and when you're watching the footage, you know, back in retrospect, it's really obvious that he's at the bottom left corner of the screen, but when I was playing the game, I was completely blind and just like so full of adrenaline that I just couldn't see him. Fatman has so many little things going on, but yeah, basically, you do the thing I do in the beginning, and then you try to like defeat him before he can plant any more bombs or activate this scenario. But if you do get to the point of this scenario, what would be most convenient is for there to only be one bomb, because if there's only one bomb in the area, you basically guarantee that Fatman is going to return to that one singular bomb like a mother hen coming to protect her chicks. And then you can basically just kind of wait for him to show up and then knock him down and then defuse the bomb while he's knocked down and get a pot shot there. And then when you defuse the first bomb after the timer has been activated, he'll kind of stand around just kind of doing like a gloat dance and like he does like a little jiggle, and then you get to knock him down again for extra damage. You know what I mean, right? And in the original Sons of Liberty version of the game, once you like defeat all his health and there's some bombs in the area, a timer will go off. But in future versions of the game, if you can knock him down to the ground before he hits the timer doesn't start, and you don't have to like defuse all these bombs he just planted right now. And something which I learned after 12 to 15 years of playing this game, you know, I'm repeating that phrase as much as Chris Stuckman repeated, you know, I grew up with this movie. Shout out to all the Chris Stuckman fans out there, get Stuckmanized. I'm gonna go check out the new Shelby Oaks movie one of these days. I want to see what he made. But yeah, no, I got really lucky there and just like took him out before he activates the timer. But basically, every time he activates the timer during the fight, it's a physical animation he has to do. So you can physically see him hit the timer if you're in the same area with him. And then that's what causes the timer. So you can actually stop him from doing that. But there's this little clever trick he does where if he planted some bombs in the area and you knock him down to the ground and he gets up, you know, he'll do his retaliation attack with the machine gun, you know, like, get out of my way. And while he's shooting the machine gun, you can see his other hand hit the timer. It's like an actual animation they animated for the fight. It's a really cool detail. I like that a lot. And while I'm pretty much like skipping cutscenes here, I should probably mention, actually, I think now's a good time to... Fourth save steps go. I'm going to mention 30 steps back to back in the fastest tone possible, but there's this funny thing I did where originally I do a save at FATMAN here, and then the next save I drop is at the Harrier fight, but then I saved at the Harrier fight. I did like the Harrier all the way to the sniping section, and in that previous save, I found out, like, I mean, I checked like my dog tags, and I found out that I actually forgot to collect the save on my fourth save during the FATMAN fight, but by the point I figured that out, I repeated the Harrier fight so many times that it was basically like, you know, just muscle memory, and it was like so easy. Like once you know the pattern of the Harrier's a really, really easy fight. So I was like, you know what? Instead of dropping a save at the Harrier, I'm gonna pretty much go from FATMAN all the way to the sniping section. I'm just gonna do that in one take, and doing that in one take is an hour of gameplay of just doing it back to back to back. So the next hour of gameplay is me playing in one take without taking damage, without getting any alerts, and getting all the dog tags. Oh wow, I got hiccups. That's really bad. It's really bad to get hiccups before I have to info dump 30 steps back to back to back, and I have no water, but honestly, water doesn't always help. When you're going down here, you knock this guy out here. Anyways, I'm going to repeat what I just said right now. Fourth save steps, go! Step 50, FATMAN. Step 51, Strut E, you go down. Step 52, Bridge EF, you go down. Step 53, Strut F, you go down and get tagged near AK. Step 54, on Bridge EF, you hug the left wall and quickly run through the left bridge while shooting the AK while using the AK to shoot the drone. Actually, you don't do this at all. Instead, at the beginning of Bridge EF, you shoot all the drones, you snipe the enemy guard, and then you go into Core 1. Step 55, in Core First Floor, get SOCOM Silencer and Chaffs in Locker Room. By the way, if you don't get the Silencer in Strut F, it spawns in the core, in the first floor of the core. So yeah, in Core First Floor, get SOCOM Silencer and Chaps in Locker Room, and then there are 4 tags again in the area, pretty self-explanatory. Step 56, in Core B2, you get tagged from outside guard, and then knock on wall from the right to lure in guard to take his tag, extra ammo in lockers on right and left side for SOCOM and M9, 2 tags in room with a directional mic. I recommend luring 1 guard outside. And before I continue with Step 57, in this specific room, I always kind of like buffer my entrance, my descent into this area, because there's usually a guard like looking out at the stairs with a flashlight if I just immediately run as fast as possible. So you actually want to kind of buffer out the little animation here. And here I'm going to run for this, and I'm already full. There was no reason to do that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, at the very top of these stairs, you know, see how there's like a little ledge there? There's usually a guard at the very beginning of you entering this area, so just kind of buffer it out. Don't immediately go down the stairs. It's really, 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 really important that you know this. So anyways, now, let's get on to Step 57. In Core B1, 3 tags and final guard you use for the retinal scan. Step 58, find aims in the bottom middle. Step 59, escape from the core. Knock out the guard near the elevator, and then once you're upstairs, use the chaff for cameras. Actually, no, you knock out like a shotgun guy near you, then you use a chaff grenade for cameras, and then you knock out the 3 guards near the door to leave the core. Step 60, on Bridge EF, you kill all drones and go down. Step 61, in Strut F, use coolant to get tagged from first guard, and then go down right upstairs to get sniper and then leave. Step 62, on Bridge EF, go to Strut E, but wait for the caution state to end before entering Strut E. In Step 63, Strut E, use fast travel to Strut B with the second box, right? Step 64, on On bridge BC, shoot drone and snipe guy to get the tag from him. Step 65, Strut C, go up and avoid guard. Step 66, on bridge CD, knock out first guard and then hold up second guard for tag. Use the coolant maybe to get the second guard before, actually do use the coolant because the second guard is going to be going up the stairs and you kind of stun him with the coolant. Step 67, in Strut D, run all the way right and take out 2 top guards. Step 68, on bridge DE, snipe high guy, then go far down, then flip down to lower floor to get 1 tag, then knock out third guy to return to Strut D on lower floor. Step 69, in Strut D, run straight upstairs to the middle. The 2 guards you knocked out in the previous step should still be sleeping. Step 70, there's 14 nodes to shoot and the flag is for last. And the reason I mention that specifically is because sometimes I lose track of how many more nodes I have left because I don't fully memorize where everything is. I kind of look around in the area. So keeping track of how many you shoot, if you shoot 13, then go for the one in the flag because the one in the flag is the most hidden. So if you actually successfully shoot the one in the flag and you don't transition to the boss fight, it's like, what the fuck? And then step 71, Harrier boss fight, easy peasy. Step 72, jump straight through and then run straight through. Then snipe the 2 guys which show up near that area. This is the Tom and Jerry level design section of the game. Step 73, after climb stairs, you run straight through and then before the 5th window, you crawl. Just remember that. I mean, there's also like a strategy that before the 5th window, you kind of like knock on the wall to distract the guard and like pretty much make his sight line like not look at you when you run straight past him. But I would fuck that up every now and then, so I decided to go for the safer strategy of just running before the 5th window, and then at the 5th window, I just crawl the rest of the way instead of crawling the entire way like I did in my original video. So then there's, step 73. After climb stairs, you run... Oh, I already said this. So yeah, after the pissing guy, the guy who pisses, you throw a chaff. You go to get extra chaffs upstairs in like that little bridge area, and then you go left to enter step 74. In Shell 2B1... Wait, hold up. You don't start in Shell 2B1. It's just that what you do on the first floor of Shell 2 isn't really important enough to mention. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just have to go to the elevator. So yeah, step 74. In Shell 2B1, you go... Here are the swimming directions to get the Nikita missile launcher. Here we go. Here are the steps. I wrote it down on a flashcard so I could memorize it better and just have it on me when I was exploring that area. So yeah, in Shell 2B1, you go first right, then all the way down, then left, then right, then backwards. Okay, by the time you do the right, you'll get the Nikita, and then once you get the Nikita, you have to follow all those directions backwards. Then boom, got it. Step 75. In Shell 2 first floor, you shoot the wall near the elevator to wake up the president. You go to the turret room and you shoot the rocket there. I mean, you have to kind of shoot the turrets as well to kind of deactivate them so that they don't kill you when you're shooting the rocket there. So yeah, you go to the turret room and you shoot the rockets through the hole there. You get the SOCOM bullets after the president's death, after you kind of deactivate the whole electrical thing. Step 76, in Shell 2B1, you go right, then all the way down, then left, then right, then left, then right, then open door. Step 77, death water tomb. You go bottom left, then top right, and then at the top right, there's kind of like this little place of water where there's no water, and you go upstairs, you kind of catch your breath. And in that area, the PSG-1T should spawn, and you need that to non-lethally do the sniping section, which is going to happen later. You can get this weapon in Strut F, but if you want to save some time, you can just kind of wait for him to spawn in that little like swimming section. Right? Step 78, Vamp Fight. Vamp Fight would be difficult if I didn't have a cheese method. To be fair, the cheese method was still kind of difficult to learn. And I did a cheese method in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, but now I'm doing the cheese method again, but faster, so it's more sexy and beautiful and doesn't waste as much time. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Step 79, swim to Emma route. This is the route I wrote on a flash drive, on a hard drive, no, on a flashcard. There we go, so yeah, boom. All the way down, then second to last left door. Then step 80, swim with EE route. So yeah, so when you're swimming with EE route, right then left and going the whole way. Step 81, vamp room. Actually, before I continue on with the steps, you know that little bird, that little parakeet you see in the B2 floor of Core 1? If you shoot at the bird, you find out that that bird has the same like a technology as Fortune, because all the bullets go past him, and when the bullets go past him, it makes the exact same noise as when the bullets go past Fortune, because she has a piece of technology which allows her to like make bullets avoid her, and the bird has the exact same technology. It's been 12 to 15 years, and this is the first time I learned about this. This is not a point in my outline, but I'm looking at my footage, and to say something relevant to what's currently happening on screen, the pressure-sensitive buttons of Metal Gear Solid 2 can be a bit annoying. It's worse in Snake Eater, but in Metal Gear Solid 2, basically with the AK, in order to like bring it up without shooting, you have to do a half press on the shoot button. But if you do a full press, you pretty much like just bring up, you just start shooting the weapon. So a really useful thing you can do in this section of the game, because you have this kind of disguise system, is you can just hold up enemies with the AK, but you have to do a half press, and you have to be really careful that when you're switching to another weapon, you don't fully press the button by accident. Like, I fucked up a couple runs by just fully pressing the button and the rest of the base goes on alert. It's just terrible. Also, by the way, for this room, originally, I ignore this guy until I deal with the other two guys, but when I did that, this guy would just be way too alert when I'm dealing with the other guys. Like, I'm way too slow when I'm getting the dog tags of the other guys. So this guy would just be in the room by the time I'm, doing everything, and it's just such a shame. So instead, I decided to knock him out first, just to kind of give myself a little bit more safety, a bit of a safety net. Anyways, let's get back to the steps. Step 82. Swim with EE again, route. This is another route on my flashcard. So yeah, open door, then top left, then top right, then bottom right. And then after the water death tomb, go left, left, right, then left, and all the way down, then right, then go up for air at some point, go right, and then all the way down. And then step 83, in shell 2, first floor, you take EE out a bit, and then hold up first guard for tag. You take Emma to the node room, and then you hold up the second guard, checking out the first guard. And then take your second tag there. Spawn in third guy and run fast as fuck to reach him and take the third tag. You'll be at the top of the area. And then hold up the 2 guards near the exit for your 4th and 5th tags. And then the 6th guard is close to the door, so watch out and get your 6th tag. Step 84. On bridge KL, you drag EE right before the railings, then you snipe the high guard behind you, and then you throw a chaff. And then after the makeshift bridge, shoot the guard and then wake him up for a tag, and then throw another chaff grenade, and then use the coolant to get rid of the fire. Ah! At some point, you throw another chaff just to kind of give yourself a little bit more safety with all the, UAVs going around. And then step 85, in the Strut L sewage, you go down right top with EE, and then you snipe 2 dudes, and you get those 2 tags. And then I dropped a save at the sniping section, and I will say, doing this entire thing in one take is an hour of gameplay, but a half of that, 30 minutes of that is really easy once you know what it is. The Shell 2 section of this game is mostly really gimmicky, and once you know what the gimmick is, it's a pretty easy section of the game. But if you don't know the gimmick, it can catch you off guard really, really easily, especially that Tom and Jerry ass shit after the first Harrier fight. I have to mention that I'm not a perfect human being, so this video you're watching is not like my first attempt at the game. It's attempts I got after multiple retries. And I bring this up because a convenient way to retry certain hard sections of an entire one-take run is to just press the continue button and just retry certain rooms over and over again until you get a certain strategy down pat. And I bring this up because this section of the game, if you do that, the caution state goes away, which basically means that retrying these sections is a fucking meaningless effort, because you need to do these sections while the caution state is active. And here, I saw the speedrun video, just throws a chaff grenade right now, but every time I did it, this guard would just look in my direction because he hears the noise of the chaff grenade falling. So instead I adjusted it to just knock this guy out first and then do the chaff. And here, actually shooting it with my SOCOM probably would have been very useful. So you kind of go to this area and you have to snipe these guys, and then when this happens, you have to snipe this guy before he sees you. Actually, this is a really messy attempt, but that guy gets knocked out before any of the other guys get knocked out, and then I knock that guy out before he extends the caution state because he saw the other guy get knocked out. Because that's something which can happen in this part, is that if you knock the guys out incorrectly, the guard guarding the door, the big old guard with the shield, he'll just make the caution state last longer, which could work to your favor. And here I've had so much bad luck where if I just run straight to the door and try to shoot some of the drones cone of vision just gets me. So here I take it slow. I'm very cautious until that drone is far enough away from me that he's not seeing me, and then we're gonna shoot down all the drones. And you basically want the caution state to almost be over by the time you're going to Strut E. My caution state actually ends while I'm in Strut F, and I kind of panic a little bit, and I waste a little bit more time in that room than is necessary, but it works out pretty well for me. And here, this would be the time where you don't want the panels to fall. Before, you could actually just make all the panels fall, and it doesn't matter because they'll just respawn, but here, any panels that fall at this point won't respawn. But doing the flips is actually really nice because basically only 3 panels fell, and it's basically 1 by 1 by 1, so it was really easy returning to this area near the end of the game. So there's some things about Okay, so here we're going to get the final tag of Strut F, and then we're not going to return to Strut F again. So this is the final tag. We have to get this guy. We're going to hold him up. We're going to get his tag, and it's going to be real beautiful. We're going to get the sniper rifle. We're going to ignore getting the tranquilizer sniper rifle because it'll just spawn during the swimming section if you don't get it here. And you see, they place the tranquilizers, like sniper rifle, in the little like crawl space they have to go through, and they just waste a little bit of time, so there's just no reason for it. But here, I'm just going to stand here because the caution state ran. I'm like, oh my goodness, did those guys get past me? Where are they going back to? I don't know. And I'm just really glad things turned out like this. But yeah, there's certain things about FATMAN which I want to mention during the fight, but I got so busy mentioning other things that I appreciate that when FATMAN falls over after you shoot him a whole bunch, your controller rumbles a certain way. That's really good feedback. Like literally, whenever the controller rumbles a certain way, I know that I successfully knocked down FATMAN. That's a really good controller gimmick. And I already mentioned the whole thing about him being able to physically hit a switch. That's a really good animation. Another thing is that on lower difficulties, FATMAN will actually do silly gigs, but not on the higher difficulties. So sometimes, once you defuse certain bombs, or if your FATMAN is just waiting for a certain something, he'll just do a little dance in a circle. He'll just like kind of rotate in a circle, like hee hee hee, like on his little skates. And sometimes he'll wait for like some of the pigeons to actually land on his arms, and it'll be like, look at these little things. That doesn't happen on the highest difficulties, that's so sad. One thing which is not as sad is that apparently the Metal Gear Rays actually have like less consistent AI on the lower difficulties compared to the highest difficulties, where the Metal Gear Rays are actually more consistent. I haven't really like tested that out too much, but apparently that's the case. And here I actually fucked up and I'm wasting time because you have to wait for that like belt to come to a complete standstill, and you have to wait for a certain sound cue before you can get on top of this thing. And basically, I could have gotten on top of that thing like way before, but I just pressed it like way too soon, and before like the sound cue happened, the ding. So the whole thing restarted, and by the time the whole thing restarted, the guard was looking in my direction, and I couldn't get on it until he stops looking at me, and that guard lingers for so long in that corner. Damn. The VR missions for this game have 3 different placements. There's 3rd place, 2nd place, and 1st place, and there's also worse than 3rd place, which just makes you feel utterly miserable. So if you get 3rd place, you'll get a voice line of the Colonel going like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. The 2nd place, you'll get Rose going, Jack, you're great! And then the 1st place, you'll get Snake going, not bad, kid. Oh, yeah, by the way, if you equip this disguise, even after the mask has been taken off, it still gives you a little bit, like, it makes the enemy visibility, like, slightly worse. It's kind of like a beta version of the camo system from Snake Eater. So this will make struts like, Strut D and E a little bit less of a pain in the ass to kind of deal with. So yeah, just kind of keep this on. It's a great outfit to just kind of wear all over the place, especially during the daytime. But yeah, no, the Rose like voice line specifically, the Jack, you're great. If you want to know where that comes from, it's not specifically from the VR missions. It actually comes from a codec call you get when you upgrade Raiden's grip strength to level 2. You get a codec call from your beautiful wife, and she'll go like, Jack, you're great. So that's not something you hear for getting 2nd place. That's something you hear for getting grip level 2, which is just 2nd place. Okay. I'm going to be recording the rest of this commentary tomorrow because I can't keep doing these screams. It's actually midnight right now. Oh boy. But there's actually some more fun facts I want to mention before I continue on here. So yeah, there's a strategy you can do here where you can kind of like keep running and kind of slip past this guy, but instead I decided to take the safer route of just sniping him across the map and then running after that. I'm back in the morning and I want to talk about more things, specifically more things from the creative gene, Kojima's book. So on page 99, he mentions this one book that really inspired him, which is called The Notebook, The Proof, and The Third Lie. And it's this trilogy of books that's kind of like set during army times. I mean, army time is kind of a weird way to say. Isn't wartime like the thing to do? So yeah, here's where you use the coolant because the guard's going to be coming up there and you get to steal this guy's tag. I don't think you have to steal the other guy's tag because I'm pretty sure we got it before on a previous run through this area. But after you defeat FATMAN, there's certain enemies that just kind of like spawn in places that you don't really have to revisit, but you should revisit them if you want to get 100% dog tags. But yeah, like the first part of the trilogy, the Notebook is told from like an objective perspective, and then the second book is told from like a third-person perspective, and then the third lie is told from a first-person perspective. And Kojima basically spoils the story of the books for me. I'm not gonna do it to you. But the tricks they pull to say their narrative is really, really cool stuff, and I just want to experience it for myself at some point. And also want to mention a documentary called All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. It's a pretty, like, dope documentary about the overreach of technology in the modern age. It came out, like, in 2011, so it's not that modern, but, like, a lot of the stuff there still kind of applies now. And one section displays footage of Metal Gear Solid 2 in a somewhat dismissive manner. And I kind of found myself feeling defensive about its inclusion, but it's kind of hard to grapple with the concept. I suggest you watch it yourself. It's kind of talking more about how the minerals used to, like, mine the PS2, it's, like, exploitative, and how Metal Gear Solid 2 is just another war action game, which kind of, like, contributes to that. And yeah, I knocked that guy out, and this guy really thought, oh, my buddy's gonna come and save me? No. Bah! Yeah, I don't think video games really affect, like, people in any way. They don't make them more violent. What are you talking about? But I would still recommend watching All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. Like, I think, for the most part, that documentary is really, really dope. It's around 3 hours. It's 3 parts. Yeah, give that a listen to. No, I mean, also watch it. There's visuals with that. It's not an audiobook. And also, on page 132 of the Creative Gene, there is a mention of Yoshino from the Majima Saga in Kiwami 2, the greatest character in that remake. So, yeah, Kojima's a big fan, too. You know, go read that book for more context. And also, another weird thing is Kojima's love for Blade Runner. I mean, loving Blade Runner is not a weird thing at all. It's a fantastic movie. And I should read the original book, you know, do robots dream of electric sheep? I mean, do androids dream of electric sheep? It's not robots, it's androids. That's what the book's title is. But yeah, no, that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and also one of the all-time favorite movies of a lot of people. It's a great movie. But yeah, Kojima was around when the movie first came out in the 80s. I wasn't born yet. And Kojima just kind of took record of some of the reviews that came out around the time that Blade Runner came out. And there's this one, like, quote from a publication called The State and the Columbia Record. And he mentions this quote on page 187 of the Creative Gene. And the quote goes like this: Blade Runner is like science fiction pornography, all sensation and no heart. What kind of fucking person says that about Blade Runner? I mean, there's a lot of movies that, like, are just too far ahead of their time, or just, like, the audience just does not get it when it comes out. The Shining was like that. Didn't The Shining win a Razzie? Not an Oscar. Not like not a cult following. A Razzie? You know, like the complete opposite of the Oscars. People were calling it a piece of shit. What are you talking about? The fucking Shining by Stanley Kubrick? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Yeah, they were. They were out of their fucking minds in the 80s, dude. My goodness. And also, a fun Japanese phenomenon is that Blade Runner was affectionately called Bla-Run. Like B-L-A-R-O-N in Japan. Just kind of shortened the name to that among, like, aficionados. Kojima mentions this on page 188. And there's more things I want to mention about the Creative Gene, but we're kind of coming up on this boss fight pretty soon, and this boss fight has specific things I want to mention, which I just remember from memory, but I should probably mention them to you, the viewer, so you have a little bit more context about what I'm doing in the footage, because sometimes it might not be that easy to follow. I mean, at me, it's easy to follow for me because I know everything, but if you don't know, I'll explain it. But before... Did you see that bird? It literally just went by there like, "Get down, Mr. President!" But killing that bird doesn't count towards your kill count in the game, because I checked the game over screen. I did not get an enemy neutralization, but could you imagine failing your big boss run because that pigeon just fucking, like, tried to defend the fucking presidential node? What the fuck? But yeah, on page 193 of the Creative Gene, Kojima repeats this phrase because of an anime every Japanese person knows, Space Battleship Yamato. That phrase by itself, not really notable. It's just that it appears in quick succession, the exact same phrase on the same page, and when I read it for the second time, I could have sworn that, like, I was just rereading the same paragraph, but no, it was a brand new paragraph, but using the same phrase just threw me off. It was such a weird experience. And yeah, that was on page 193. So what you do is you land 2 rockets at the very beginning, and then you land the rocket here. And you could land 3 rockets at the very beginning, but if you do that, then you deal too much damage, and the Harrier doesn't follow the exact pattern I want it to follow, because I want to deal, like, mega damage later. So yeah, 2 rockets at the beginning, 1 when it's doing its thing, 2 rockets here. You could deal 3, you could maybe even deal 4 if you're fast enough, but I'm just going to avoid doing that. because I'm trying to make him do a very specific thing. So here he's going to go out into the white mist and all that. And let me tell you, playing this fight on the Vita could be pretty annoying. I mean, hell, even playing it on the PS2 is a little bit out there. Even playing it on the HD collection is probably out there because this guy becomes so small at points that it's kind of hard to follow him. And the Kasatsuka has such an annoying habit of blocking the Harrier at the exact points you need to shoot it. So yeah, here, if you don't deal too much damage, he's going to do this. And when he does this, you can spam like 7 rockets at him. Just boom. Boom, and yeah, it's best not to lock onto him. You just need to have him like right in front of you. Just kind of point the stinger all the way up in the air. Skip that cutscene immediately to land 2 more rockets, and look at all that beautiful damage we're dealing here. And I guess I should note that I'm playing this on extreme difficulty. And I mention this because I'm pretty sure on European Extreme the game is actually harder. Enemies have like bigger sight lines, and sometimes you can actually land like a shot on this guy and deal more damage, but I just missed it. I don't know what the exact timing is for this. And by the way, I'm doing all these flips because you get iframes when you flip off railings. So when he does the big bombing run, the time you want to press, like, you know, jump over railing button is when you hear the noise, like, land on the ground. Not when you see it visually, if that makes any sense. And here, when I'll let you go out in style, you can shoot him twice. Sometimes for, like, no reason in particular, like the first or second shot won't hit him, but for the most part you can land 2 shots and it'll deal double damage. And here I'm just trying to land 1 cheeky shot before going up here. And also a fun fact about this, about the PS2 version of this game, is that when you shoot the Stinger missile on the original PS2 version, there was this really explosive blur effect, which is just absent from the HD collection. And it just makes fights like the Harrier and the Metal Gear Ray a lot more intense, but also I think a lot of modern gamers do not like blur effects, especially motion blur. They tend to turn that off on PC because a lot of graphic settings, like in the modern day, are just really customizable. I mean, on the PS2, that wasn't really an option. You know, you get what you get. I mean, they optimize it specifically for what it is. But hell, even console games of these days, you can kind of flip between 30 and 60 FPS depending on the game. It's becoming a more widespread thing. And do you see that shit? What are you doing? Do you have a death wish, Otacon? Like, maybe he does. Maybe he does. After all the things which happened to him in his life, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's great that he doesn't at the very end, and, you know, he, like, strives to live on. You know, because Otacon, he's got a strong heart. Yeah, why am I doing this in particular? Well, for one, the missile barrage, I thought I had to do, like, something complicated, like stay in a piece of cover which only protected me, like, 8 out of 10 times, or run down a certain path. But what I found out is that the iframes of doing this are so strong that you basically tank everything in the game. And for the missile barrage, it's pretty easy. For this, you have to be a little bit careful. You have to reload your weapon, because if you get stuck in the reloading animation, that's when you lose your iframes and, like, the machine gun fire can get you. And now, even the machine gun fire, I was worried about revisiting this because the previous way I did it was that I would go downstairs, I would activate the cardboard box, and I would hide behind the boxes, but you need to have, like, really good audio and, like, visual awareness and, like, kind of, like, move around the box in a very specific way. You have to learn that route, and honestly, I really didn't want to learn that route, but I just found this new strategy where I get to fire at the enemy from that piece of cover and get that really cinematic camera angle, and it looks freaking sick, and it's super easy. I mean, the one thing that's not easy is just landing an extra shot before you have to go into cover again. And see, if I actually landed, like, 2 shots during the I'll let you go out in style phase, like, you know, which happened before, he would be dead by now, but for some reason one of the missiles didn't miss. Now, if you have 0 ammo, that's great. Having 0 ammo still gives you all the iframes you want, but you don't waste any ammo. The one thing which worries me about doing this strategy is the fact that you can only fire, like, under 700 shots. You have to fire under 700 shots to get the big boss rank, so I feel like shooting shots here might take away, you know, might make you shoot way too much, and it might ruin your run later. But by the end of this video, I got like 661 shots, so I was very close, but I did not go over 700, which is really, really nice. And yeah, you could save there, but I did not save there. Also, I really wish that the SOCOM bullets would actually damage the Harrier at some point. Like, the whole point of doing that strategy isn't to damage the Harrier with the SOCOM bullets, but I wish it did, like, a little bit of damage, especially at the very end when it basically had, like, no health. It should have killed it, because what I found out was, if you shoot the Harrier with, like, the AK weapon, it actually damages the Harrier. Like, not by much, but if you land those shots, it actually takes damage. So, hey, why don't you do the cover thing with the AK weapon? It's because it's not as efficient as doing the pistol. Like, the pistol is much better. So yeah, here we're just going to snipe these guys. And when I was watching my original video, I didn't realize that I used the non-lethal like sniper rifle to knock him out there. That's like the only time I used the non-lethal sniper rifle in this particular section, but now I realize I don't really need it. So you have to snipe those two guys at a very particular point so that, you know, the other guy doesn't notice the other guy. Like, at some point they're standing normally, and then at another point they kind of have their backs to each other, and when they have their backs to each other, then you can, like, take one out and the other guy doesn't notice, which is kind of weird. But, you know, if it works, it works. And then we climb this thing, we're going to run straight through, and then before the fifth window, boom, we start doing this. And yeah, no, that jump at the very beginning after the Harrier is really, really silly. Like, I don't know how to describe it. You really have to get the timing down, like the distance down. But it's some Tom and Jerry ass shit, and it's pretty easy to fuck up. So yeah, no, if you do like my save from like FATMAN, and then like you don't save at the Harrier, and then you fuck up at that point, it's like the most like embarrassing thing to go through. Though I will say, when I decided to commit and just do the entirety like of my save from FATMAN all the way to the sniping section, when I decided to do that, I did it on my first try. Though it should be mentioned that like I had to do my 5th save from like the Harrier to the sniping section multiple times to get it down. But then like after I successfully did it and found out that it was a fraud save, it was like a fraud big boss run from that point on because of the dog tags. Like, then I redid the whole thing in one take, and I just first take. So yeah, there you can kind of like get past those sections with jumping. I think like in one of the previous ones where I did hanging, maybe you could get past that with jumping, but I might be misremembering the speedrun. So here, I love this game. I give this game a 9 out of 10. It is my second favorite Metal Gear Solid of the entire franchise. My top 3 is basically Snake Eater, Sons of Liberty, and The Phantom Pain. It's fun to rank them by their subtitles. Instead of saying my favorites are Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 5, they all have really like, you know, bold like subtitles, which just give you context of the game. Sons of Liberty, Snake Eater, The Phantom Pain. So yeah, those are my top 3 in the franchise, which I was rewatching my old commentary for Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage, and I talked a lot of smack about The Phantom Pain, and you know, The Phantom Pain has earned some of the smack talk, but that's also still my 3rd favorite Metal Gear Solid to play. It's such a fun game to go through, warts and all, and disappointments and all. It's still such a fun game to play, like just the gunplay and just like the sneaky controls. It's so nice. Like the only thing about the controls of The Phantom Pain, which I'm not that big on, is maybe like the cover shooting. Yeah, like the cover system is a little spotty, but besides that, it's one of the best controlling third-person shooters on the market to this day. It's so lovely. It's so lovely. But another part of the creative gene is, oh, I actually have my flashcard with me right now, so I'm just gonna, I actually wrote things on my flashcard a little bit differently just so I can like make the letters smaller. So yeah, Nikita route. Nikita route is R all L L R L R R all L. So pretty much R means go right, all means go all the way down, L means left, if that makes any sense. Boom, baby. And I believe that in these instructions, I wrote down the way to go backwards, because just saying go backwards doesn't make any sense. It's kind of hard to like just rearrange like all the backwards directions here. It's not like this place is that complicated or that labyrinthine, but it can get confusing on a first-time playthrough, and I still get lost every time I'm trying to follow the directions, because like a lot of these areas can just kind of look the same. And I guess one thing I wanted to get back on is I call this game like a stealth collectathon, but one thing which kind of like goes against this game in terms of being a stealth collectathon is usually collectathons aren't linear. This game is really linear. Though, technically, this game is a little bit more non-linear than, say, Snake Eater, which is like, what? Snake Eater's the game with the big open environments and all that, but the progression of the game is a straight line. You know, you just kind of go from a straight connected line of different boxes in Snake Eater. While in Metal Gear Solid 2, you can kind of sequence break a lot more compared to what you can do in Snake Eater. Like, there's optional areas in Snake Eater, but the sequence breaking in Metal Gear Solid 2 can get pretty crazy. But I guess calling Metal Gear Solid 2 a non-linear game is a little bit silly when stuff like Thief the Dark Project, Deus Ex, and Hitman Blood Money exist. You know, like at that point, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about, non-linear? So yeah, here we're going to break this crate. Before, I would go to another area which required me to break like 3 crates. This area only requires me to break 1 crate, but you kind of have to do like these 2 adjustments really quickly without fucking up the rockets and all that. And this section right here also worries me for like the shots fired, because you can't fire more than 700 shots. And there is a way to do this section without breaking any crates. You know, you have to follow a very specific path. But that path was always a pain in the ass, so I always go for the crate breaking strategy. But you have to waste more rockets breaking crates. So I'm just wondering, is this like little activity that I'm doing right now the thing that will set me over like 700? I really hope it doesn't. And you have to keep in mind that you do have to spam stingers for like the Harrier fight and the Metal Gear Ray fight, so that's going to add a ton to your shots fired thing, and the sniping section, though I do think the game is accounting for the fact that you're going to be firing a lot during those sections, so I would say don't like save your ammo during those points. You know, do use your ammo during those action set pieces, just don't use your ammo anywhere else. Like, don't egregiously use your ammo anywhere else. That's kind of the whole thing. So now I'm going to talk about another quote from the Creative Gene, and this is on page 213, and it's about the film 2001, A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick, which, by the way, that film didn't make its money back. It's crazy how unsuccessful some of these Stanley Kubrick's movies were, and then they just become like all-time classics and just put into like the canon of the greatest movies of all time. But here's how the quote goes. I couldn't help but watch the making of and listen to the audio Hello, my name is Hideo Kojima. I couldn't help but watch the making of and listen to the audio commentary. This was a mistake. Various people who worked on the movie gave their personal answers and opinions and revealed how they made their movie. I don't need their interpretation of the story. I don't need to hear them talk about what difficulties they experienced. I have no need for a talking monolith. Since then, the DVD case has remained closed. I just find this a really funny quote. Like, why don't you care about the crew's struggles? Like, I have no need for a talking monolith. Something about that just sounds offensive. Like, it sounds like a bold insult. It probably isn't, but it's just like a really funny way to like describe your feelings. Like, I kind of get it. Because this is like Kojima's favorite movie of all time, and I guess like when you really love like a piece of art that much, you're not really so interested in how it was made. You're interested in the experience it gives you and just like what it invokes inside of you, and you don't really care much for the particulars of its construction, and you're just kind of lost in the magic of it all. So I kind of get that, but also like, man, I feel like what the crew did is still really important, you know? Like, The Shining, like, I mean, doing like 100 takes for certain scenes, that's pretty cool. I like learning about that. Doesn't take away from the movie. I mean, I guess like once you learn about the magician's trick, you know, like you could kind of see him as a fraud, but I'm just impressed with the magician, man. That magician is so fucking meticulous, man. Here comes another swimming section, and it's like the same route, except now there's a little bit more going on, and here's the way I wrote it down. R, all, L, R, L, R, open door. You know open doors for the water death tomb, and then after open door, it's BL, TL, TR. And at the TR section, you should probably go upstairs in order to get the non-lethal trank. And also, avoiding the bombs, I was really worried that like that might fuck me over, but a majority of the time, the way you can avoid these bombs is just staying at the bottom of the floor and to the right, and you basically avoid all the bombs. You don't have to do anything too complicated to kind of maneuver around them. But then again, I guess I've replayed this game multiple times, so things like this are a little bit easier to me. I will say the Water Death Tomb, it is slightly easier to navigate, but sometimes, in order to get to like a bottom section, you have to go over a top section, and when you have to go to a top section, you have to go through a bottom section. That can get... See, that it just happened right now. I had to like swim underneath the debris in order to get stuff there. And also that you can get more Stinger missiles, which if you play the vamp fight fairly, then you can do that, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. And also, I was just thinking back to this game being a stealth collectathon. Another thing which just kind of like makes this not so much of a convenient stealth collectathon is this game has multiple points of no return. So, I mean, other collectathons like Donkey Kong 64 where he goes, ooh, banana. I've never played Donkey Kong 64. I'm actually a fraud, by the way. But those games, that you can re-explore areas. You know, you can go back to previous places to get more collectibles. And I'm told that that's one of the more annoying aspects of it, but being able to never go back to certain places and being forced to beat the game with like 95% of the dog tags collected, I mean, the game will tell you where those dog tags are now located, so you can do a replay of that difficulty and go back to those specific areas and get those dog tags, but that's not really a very convenient thing now, is it? So the game isn't really designed to be that, but that experience is a banger one in terms of stealth action. And I want to get back to me talking about how this is a 9 out of 10 game. Actually, before we talk about that, I should probably talk about what I'm going to do with Vamp here. So we kind of land a shot on him there. We land like one explosive in the water to kind of drain his stamina a bit. And then we're going to hang off the railing here. We're going to wait for him to kind of get a little bit closer. We're going to get up. He's going to do the knife swing animation. And we're going to have the AK equipped. And we're going to land like 3 to 4 hits with the melee attack. We're going to do like 1, 2, 1, 2. Kind of like sparring. Like it's like boxing. You have to do 1, 2, 1, 2. And then you kind of wait for him to do the knife attack, you get away from the knife attack, and you kind of keep doing this, and you can do it infinitely. However, I kind of mess up at a certain point, do a full combo, but that full combo, he was about to hit me with the knife, so I basically saved my ass, but you're supposed to kind of do like 1, 2, 1, 2, and then get away, 1, 2, 1, 2, and get away. And you do have to stay somewhat close to him, because if you get too far away from him, he activates like his orange glow, and he just jumps in the water again. It just kind of slows down the whole process. And also, in my previous video, oh, and also another thing is I entered the water really, really soon at that point, because I had a suspicion that if I shot him with an explosive by the stinger, he'd be out of the water before I'm hanging on the railing. And when that happens, he just kind of follows his like normal pattern and gets like, you know, high top on the tippy toes and starts throwing knives at you. And like, I thought it was impossible to avoid the knives if you're hanging on the railing, but you can just use the iframes of getting up from the railing to avoid the knives he throws at you. You can just get on the railing again until he does what you want him to do. It's not as hard as I remember, and that's a sick ass finish. I'm just so glad I did it so quickly, because in some of my previous successful attempts, I dragged this fight out way too long, while here, I did it in basically like 2 continuous combos. So that's very, very nice. So yes, this game, 9 out of 10. However, it's not perfect, and the imperfections are staring at us straight in the face. Like pretty much like right after the Harrier fight, the game's stealth, like espionage action is just gone. Like, honestly, I think the bomb disposal section of this game has the best stealth gameplay of the whole thing, which is really weird, because a lot of people seem to not really like the bomb disposal. They seem to find it boring or tedious, but, like, the fact that you have to go into these struts, you have to navigate the area in a way where the enemies don't see you, and you defuse the bombs, and if you're getting all the dog tags, you have to get all the dog tags and defuse the bombs. Like, it just creates really interesting scenarios. I mean, like, I guess the only thing I can really compare is, like, the tanker section, because the tanker's level design is just so nice, and you're picking up the thermal goggles ahead of time, though really, you could wait until the sniping section to get them, because they'll just spawn there if you don't get them there. And then in the middle locker, there's Emma, or EE! But yeah, no, once we hit Shell 2, it's basically just all set pieces, and just the sneaking gameplay is just not as interesting. Like, we have this hostage thing with Emma, but it really slows us down how we have to, like, physically carry her and then maneuver around the enemies that are coming around. It feels more like a set piece than, like, dynamic stealth gameplay where you're just infiltrating a place that the enemies aren't expecting you to infiltrate. Like, the part with Emma, once you get to the first floor of Shell 2, just kind of feels like, you know, like a stealth action set piece, because the enemies are coming down your way, and then you go down a certain way, another one respawns. It's like a wave round survival. It's like a zombies mode. And it's just nowhere near as interesting as the stuff you were doing before with the struts, where you had to choose a certain path, you had to kind of get by certain places, and how each strut had like multiple openings. I say multiple openings, there's 2. There's the one at the front, and there's one at the bottom, and then maybe there's like the one at the top of the area, and there's one at the bottom of the area. Like that's about it, but there's still multiple openings when you're re-exploring the areas, backtracking. It's all really, really nice. So I will say, oh, my nose has a little bit of a pimple, and it's annoying, and I have to poke at it. Ow, 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 ow. I will say that the set pieces in this game, I actually find it less annoying than the set pieces in Metal Gear Solid 1, because this is not an exclusively Metal Gear Solid 2 issue. Metal Gear Solid 1, like, once you reach the communication tower, just falls off the window in terms of stealth gameplay, because, you know, like, right before then, like, the game had a really nice flow. I mean, the second area of the game is, like, the most complicated, and then after that, it doesn't get as complicated, but still has, like, fun gimmicks. Like, there's that one area where you can't use any of your weapons, and then there's, like, the Psycho Mantis area, which just looks really beautiful, and has, like, that one gimmick where you have to find that one soldier. But then, like, right after Sniper Wolf, it's all just a bunch of action set-piece bullshit that just doesn't incorporate stealth in a fun way. And, like, the last time you get to, like, do some fun sneaking is, like, with Vulcan Raven, which, hey, Vulcan Raven's a freaking sweet boss fight, let me tell you. But man, dude, it's so disappointing when the stealth action gameplay of before was working so nicely and it just stops. This game, I think the set pieces are shorter or better, and it just kind of like works out better in the long run. And also, the narrative is kind of propelling it forward during these sections a lot more than the gameplay is. Oh yeah, here's the route for swimming with EE after the vamp section, which I believe this is after the vamp section. Oh yeah, I do have like a route for the vamp section. Here's how it goes. All, second to last L. So yeah, the vamp, after the vamp room, it's really easy to swim in that area. But then after the vamp room, before the vamp room, it's really easy to swim in that area. But after the vamp room, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Anyways, this specific route I'm doing right now. So swim with Emma. all. So yeah, just follow those things and you'll basically perfect this section every single time. And now I want to get back to my notes about what I'm writing here. Like, Snake Eater is just the more consistent game, because it just feels like it commits to the stealth the longest. And look at this little ducky. I like this ducky here. But yeah, no, 4 safe steps. No, I already read this. I don't have to read this, but there's other parts of this outline I have to get to. The creative gene on page 225 confirms that Kojima is an unfaithful man. He is a cheater. This dude cheated on Sony with the Aiwa and Panasonic music player. He used to have the Walkman, but sometimes he wouldn't use the Walkman, and thus he was unfaithful to Sony, the electronics department which makes certain music players. And here we have to put Emma into a chokehold because she doesn't like bugs. And it's a real shame. But I just gotta tell you, man, Kojima, you just can't trust him. He cheats on his music devices. He cheats the world by producing inferior stealth action experiences compared to the majesty of Splinter Cell and Thief. And he cheats his fans consistently! How dare you pair Meryl with Johnny and not with me! Shame on you! Ooh, whenever I do that, I get hiccups and it's just really annoying. So this section here, you kind of take Emma out there, and then there's the enemy there, you hold them up there, and then after you hold up this enemy here, you're going to take Emma to the node room, and then there's going to be an enemy investigating this guy, and then you get that guy, and then you take Emma all the way down, and then it'll spawn in a third guy, which then you get there, and then like the last 3 guys are all planted at the very end of the level, and it's pretty self-explanatory with them, except I'll say that for the 4th and 5th guy, which are standing right next to each other, near the end of this area, sometimes they might look in your direction, so you kind of have to be a little bit careful about that. You need to have some situational awareness. And that's this entire section. And yeah, once you know what to do, it pretty much just plays itself. And it's just not as interesting because, you know, you have to collect the dog tags and, you know, defuse the bombs, and like the areas are so tightly like packed that it all just kind of goes here. Though I do wish like the level design of the plant was more close to the tanker section, because the tanker section could do some really interesting stuff in a way which this game just, some of the struts here just don't really like follow up on. But yeah, moving on from there, I also want to mention, oh my gosh, there's so many words here. I also want to mention that, I actually mentioned some of these things already, like don't fire more than 700 shots. Here's something which I didn't realize existed until 12 to 15 years after the fact, and I pretty much just learned this right now, that if you hold your camera over a guard and hold down the triangle button, their name will appear indicating whether or not they have a dog tag you need to get. And using the thermal goggles also shows if an enemy has a dog tag you need to collect, it'll show up like through the thermal vision. So I just never knew that, because sometimes like you're not 100% sure if an enemy has a dog tag. Like one thing which can make it obvious is just that, you know, like you look at their collar and it's just, there's like a little spark. No, spark's not the right word. There's a little shine. But if you don't see the shine, you have these other methods to like, you know, confirm if an enemy has a dog tag or not. Because sometimes like the shine, like it's not, I don't know, if you look at it from a weird angle, it doesn't show up. So yeah, you can use like your camera in the game to pretty much like just make someone's name appear over them and, you know, confirm whether or not they have a dog tag you need to collect. That's really, really cool. And also in James Howell's essay, he brings up a man called Tim Rogers. Tim Rogers? He writes some things. Say hello, Tim Rogers. And I will say, while reading James' essay, he does say this phrase a couple times. However, the criticism assumes that so-and-so happened foremost as a narrative rather than a formal element. He spaces out this phrase like throughout his essay, so it doesn't feel like I'm reading the same paragraph again. But every time he says that, I always have like trouble really understanding it. This is in reference to people thinking that Vamp and Liquid's arm are like rubbish plot points. It's just that I find it hard to separate narrative from like forum discussions. Like, aren't they the exact same thing? I don't understand. Like, what are you talking about here? Without context, I feel like a lot of things I'm mentioning don't really make sense. But basically, I think the thesis of James Howell's essay is that Metal Gear Solid 2 uses the video game like form, like the medium. He explains in very like bold detail how Metal Gear Solid 2 like theme, messaging, and artistry only really works as a video game and can't be translated to like a movie format despite the really long cutscenes. And he mentioned specifically how this game uses the memory of the first game to pretty much like dissuade players from like blindly accepting the myths of the past. And Vamp and Liquid's arm, he argues for, you know, their inclusion in the game because some people don't really like how it's in the story. They feel like it's too random to have a bisexual vampire and, like, Liquid's ghost possessing his arm on, like, Revolver Ocelot. But when you think about how this connects with the form of pretty much, like, you know, using the memory of Metal Gear Solid 2 against the player, things become a lot more interesting. Because Vamp takes on a lot of, like, interesting things, which makes you, like, remember, oh, Vamp's kind of like a Gray Fox because he, like, slaughters a lot of people in this horror sequence. Vamp is kind of like a decoy octopus because the protagonist accidentally kills him at some point. You know how, like, Solid Snake accidentally kills Decoy Octopus with a Fox Die. Raiden accidentally kills him by landing a headshot on him, but then here's where the difference is a lie. When Snake accidentally killed the Decoy Octopus in the game, it was a really satisfying plot twist. When Raiden, like, almost kills Vamp in the game, he landed a fucking headshot on his head and he just survives. He just fucking lives. Like, Raiden keeps trying to be like Solid Snake because we, the player, want him to be like Solid Snake because we have these expectations after Metal Gear Solid 1, and Raiden himself has played the VR missions of the original Metal Gear Solid 1, and he wants to be that action war hero, but he keeps running into this thing where he's trying to, like, deal with these new issues which are slightly similar to, like, the past, but there's all this new context which doesn't allow him to do the exact same things as Solid Snake does because he's not Solid Snake. And multiple aspects of the game, right down to the design and boss encounters, reinforce that theme all the way to the very end of the game. And I'm going to be elaborating on some of his points later because it's later on in my outline, but that's why he's defending Vamp there. And for Liquid's arm, it's basically an inversion of the main two antagonists of the first Metal Gear Solid game because the main two antagonists was Liquid. Liquid was the loud one. He always said he was the antagonist. Revolver Ocelot was the one who was doing everything behind the scenes, but they're the ones at fault for basically everything which happened in Metal Gear Solid 1. So in the first game, Revolver Ocelot was pretty much controlling Liquid Snake through duplicitous means, sneaky means, and now the relationship has been flipped in Metal Gear Solid 2 with Liquid possessing Ocelot. So it's like, oh wow, there's a lot of cool dynamics happening here. But then at the very end of the game, pretty much Snake goes to, like, deal with that, and then Raiden is completely removed from that scenario, is removed from the memes of Metal Gear Solid 2. I mean, I'm going to have to mention memes eventually, and I'm going to elaborate more on memes later. But yeah, no, that's like a one-word theme, which Kojima really wanted to, like, hamper in with Metal Gear Solid 2. Kojima kind of adopted this one-word theming structure for his games after, like, Snake Eater, I think. But I think these one-word, like, naming schemes kind of do a disservice to the games, to, like, a series of games which have multiple themes inside the exact same game. Metal Gear Solid 2 is about memes, but it's also about a lot more than that. See, okay, look at this. Okay, take a screenshot of this right now. Take a screenshot of this right now. Does it not look like I took damage on my health bar? That's because, like, a part of the terrain is, like, the exact same color of black as, like, the black edge of my full health bar, so it makes it look like I have a tiny bit of, like, you know, taken damage, but actually have no damage taken, and when the camera angle switches immediately in that room, you can tell the difference. You can see the difference, but, like, when I was playing the game and I was recording this section, I saw that I had a tiny little, like, empty black bar there at the very end. I was like, holy fuck, when did I take damage? And did I take damage during the fucking swimming? And it turns out, oh, you never took damage. The game's visual design is just fucking with you. And it's like, oh. I mean, do you guys see it too? Because that shit just confused the fuck out of me, man. It was so scary. And also, I want to mention a thing which happened in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, is that I mentioned that this series has a history of being weird towards women. Like in the original Metal Gear Solid 2 video, I mentioned all the little perverted things you can do in Metal Gear Solid 2? Yeah, it was in 2. I forgot what I mentioned specifically in the original video, but I'm like, yeah, so you can do that. And Snake Eater, I'm like, yeah, you can do a few things there. Metal Gear Solid 4, there's like the white room, which is kind of like, And then I make the quite misguided comment that, oh, Peace Walker probably didn't do anything all that bad. It's a PSP game. They don't have that many polygons to do something in that game. The game with the Love Box pause mission, I just forgot about that. So that was funny to mention. But it's funny that I was like mentioning those things in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 video, and I had no idea of the shit that you can get up to in the Ames room. If you, like, interrogate one of the old ladies inside the Ames, like, hostage room, she'll just piss herself. And if you also, like, point the mic at like, her chesticles, Raiden will start saying the measurements of, like, her body. And then there's like a random like office lady where if you crouch under a certain piece of cover, you can like stare up her skirt. How did I not know this? It's been 12 to 15 years. It's like, dude, when you're doing that mission, you're hunting for a dude, right? You're told it's Ames. Ames is a CIA agent and he's a man. So you wouldn't even think to like interrogate like the gals which are being held hostage, but you could do it, and then you can call like Colonel Campbell, and he'll be like, Raiden, that's unacceptable, but also that's so fucking cool that you're doing that, Raiden. And you know, Rose is like, what the fuck? So here we're doing the sniping section, and I should probably be talking about this instead of like women. So like the way I handle this section is at the very beginning I take care of the mines on that bridge, and then I use my non-lethal trank to pretty much take out these guys here. And like returning to this section, I was just so worried it was going to be a pain in the ass, and like it still kind of is a pain in the ass, but it was nowhere near as daunting as it used to be back in the past. Like I just feel like I've gotten better at this game, because like I never would have imagined that I would like be able to take out those 3 guards before Emma takes any damage. Like I've done certain runs of this where she takes no damage, though this is not one of them. She takes very little damage, and mind you, you need to minimize the amount of damage possible, because the worst part of this sniping section is not this part, it's the vamp fight afterwards. That's the worst part, that's just the most tedious part. So here I'm just kind of waiting for that guy to show up. But basically, you take out the first mines on this bridge, and then you wait for these 3 guys to show up, you take them out, and then when you take them out, while Emma's still trying to get onto that strut, you take out the mines all the way in the other bridge, and then along the way you shoot down some of the UAV drones. And then, once Emma's on this bridge, at some point that 4th guy is going to spawn there, you kind of take him out there. Oh yeah, and at the very beginning, there's going to be one guy you take out in that first strut, and there's going to be another guy in the second strut. You can kind of get an early shot on him too, non-lethally. And I was told this trick during my stream, where if you stand right on top of the ammo box of a non-lethal weapon, you just have infinite non-lethal ammo, because every time you run out, you pretty much get more of it. So yeah, around this point, this drone will show up. And I've had a weird situation where while like Emma's trying to get to this point, and like there will be some enemies that'll spawn in here. Sometimes a drone will be behind her quicker than the enemies on this side spawn in, but then there's a lot of times, like right now, where the enemies spawn in quicker than the drone that comes behind her, and I don't know what causes that. Maybe like I just spent too much time on a previous section with Emma walking, while here maybe I'm walking really fast with Emma, so like the drone behind her doesn't show up until I'm pretty much like done dealing with the enemies who are going to spawn in at the thing I'm looking at right now. And it is kind of a shame to use the thermal goggles during this section when it's such a beautiful looking area with like the twilight lighting and just like the dawn setting, the oranges, like the sparkle of the water. You'll get to see some of that, but in order to get like the best visibility, I will be using the thermal goggles. And honestly, I'm just so surprised how good I am at like shooting these things without the pentamazines. But another fun fact about the pentamazines is that if you like use up all your pentamazines, they actually respawn. So you can spam them as much as you like, and there'll be more later. See, there's the drone right there. Sometimes when I'm shooting the enemies there, the drone actually gets the drop on Emma, and it's so annoying, man. So you gotta have to be on the ball there, and then we pretty much taken out like most of the enemies. So now like normal enemy guards are not really a problem anymore. One of these guys is Johnny, but I'm still going to like non-lethally take him out with my non-lethal sniper rifle. And one annoying thing is that basically once you have like only 5 bullets of non-lethal ammo left, the box will spawn in, and it will give you like 5 more bullets of non-lethal ammo. Or maybe it's when you reach 0 with the non-lethal ammo, you get 10 bullets. But with the lethal sniper rifle, once you reach 5 bullets, the box for the lethal sniper rifle shows up and it gives you 20 bullets. And it's like, what? Why can't I have more non-lethal bullets, dude? You're only giving me 10? What are you doing here? I mean, I would have really appreciated it, especially for like the end of the game, because this sniper actually has a ton of use at the very end of your journey with like the final action set pieces. This is a point which shows up later in my outline, but I think I'm going to mention it right now, that once you reach the point where Snake calls you and he's like, hey man, if you want me to snipe, just, call me again, and then like I'll see through your scope to shoot at things. I thought I had to use the sniper scope, but no, you can just get out like your actual like scope item, which isn't a telescope, which isn't the scope of the sniper rifle, and it's just like a normal scope. You can use that to let Snake shoot at the drones, and it just gives you like a better view of the area. You don't have like this black circle like kind of encompassing you, this like vintage effect. I don't know if vintage is like the right word for it. Like there's certain photos where like a bit of vintaging happens around the corners. The newest Superman movie, certain scenes have a bit of that going on because he uses a certain lens which isn't like big enough to fit the camera body, so he uses that for unique effect. It shows up like pretty early with like the snowy sections of the movie. I learned that from a random video I saw because like yeah, the new Superman movie uses a very unique lens, like very unconventional. So that was interesting to learn about. And yeah, there's a Vulcan Raven action figure in one part of the tanker and in the swimming sections of the plant. I just thought to mention that. I don't really have anything like more to add to that. But when I was watching the making of documentary of this game, they said that the character design for Vamp was inspired by the great Spanish flamenco dancer Joaquin Cortes, if that's how you say his name. So look into him because he indirectly inspired Vamp. No, he directly inspired Vamp. I guess like he didn't join the studio and tell them, hey, can you make Vamp like me? But they saw his talent and they went, yo, I think this could work really well for Vamp. And also they mentioned that in the making of documentary of Metal Gear Solid 2, they also mentioned that there was the character they wanted to make, but he got removed as they finished the story. He was called the Chinaman. He's Vietnamese. Kojima, what the fuck, man? Okay, and he has a tattoo of a dragon which comes to life when he goes into water. Now, how tastefully would Kojima have handled that character? We'll never know. So there's that. But it seems like certain aspects of his like powers just got added over to Vamp with the whole water thing. And also in the documentary, Kojima originally wanted to play sharks during the swimming sections of Shell 2, so not only would you have to swim and avoid bombs, you'd have to avoid sharks coming after you. And he was talking about a really ambitious piece of like AI, like manipulation, enemy AI, where if you start bleeding in like the swimming sections, the sharks would actually follow the smell of blood and try and just track you easier. So like, I don't know, I guess, has Kojima ever done anything similar, like, after the fact there? I mean, like, enemies could follow your footprints in the snow, they could follow wet footprints in the beginning of the tanker section, but this whole thing with, yeah, here, I'm going to start off by just shooting him at the very beginning here, but the 10 bullets I have aren't enough to get rid of his health bar, which is one of the most dastardly things you can do. Okay, so you have to go, you have to get more ammo, and then you have to go back to get him. It's a pain in the ass, and, like, if Emma has if you didn't make sure that Emma didn't take damage, her health bar runs out really, really quickly. So yeah, this section is a pain in the ass, especially if you're doing a big boss rank, and especially if you're trying to do it all in one take. Holy fucking moly, man. By the way, I still need to play Ghost Babel. Anyways, I also have to talk about my 5th save steps, so that is something I really, really need to mention. So yeah, 5th save steps, go! Step 86, sniping with EE. Step 87, that fucker Vamp. Step 88, in Strut E, you snipe guard on the right and take tag. Step 89, shoot drones and enter shell 1. Step 90, choking time. Step 91, call your wife. Step 92, inside arsenal gear, you cartwheel horizontal to distract guard, and then cartwheel middle until 3rd guard, and then right, then go upstairs, check camera, then cross and cartwheel guard near door. Step 93, accept every codec call in the colon, then snake arrives and you practice until the game moves on. I didn't write the steps for the rest of the game because basically the rest of my saves are just the action set pieces, and like I just kind of learned that by memory. I didn't really need to write down the steps, even though there is still strategies I follow, which I have in my head. I just didn't write them down. And yes, you will not be hearing me repeat like save steps anymore. There is only 40 minutes of this video left, and you're not going to be hearing about that. And, just saying these things so quickly kind of reminds me of Debate Club. I wasn't in Debate Club, but I've heard that there's a subsection of Debate Club, like, I don't know, like in high school, college, and beyond, where there's a subsection of it that's, like, specifically about debating people while talking really, really fast, like ridiculously fast. Like, people would, like, write down their arguments ahead of time, and then they'd practice how to say it as quickly as possible so that they could say, like, 10 pages in, like, a minute or something. And at some point, they stop speaking normally, and they start, like, pretty much saying their entire argument with the most disgusting abbreviations you will hear of the English language for the rest of your days, just so that they can get more words out and just say a lot more stuff quicker. Like, it's hard to understand how these people talk when they're, like, talking so fast in a competitive setting, in a competitive, like, speak fast as fuck debate setting. It has a specific name, but I just forgot it. But I just always found that really interesting. And, maybe it's something I want to practice myself. Just talking really, really fast is a talent I like to get down. I mean, I kind of got it down, but I can always get better. In James Howell's essay, he uses the idea of a map as a way of analyzing how Metal Gear Solid 2 uses the familiarities of the first Solid game as a warning to not blindly follow the maps of the past, by showing how repeating the same events from 1 lead to less satisfying payoffs in 2. And this tends to happen with the boss fights, because in the first Metal Gear Solid, every time you defeated a boss fight, the cutscene after shows you how you successfully took them out. While in this game, for the most part, like, Raiden takes out FATMAN, and then in the cutscene after, FATMAN's like, what you did was pretty stupid, and you're not gonna beat me, kid. You defeat Vamp, and he just doesn't die. Fortune's fight is just a complete insult. So it's just, like, crazy, and, like, this continues right up to the very end of the game. Like, he mentions how Vamp is built up of more subtle formal similarities to previous Metal Gear Solid 1 boss fights. Like, Vamp is similar to... I mean, I already mentioned some of these things. Vamp is similar to Ocelot, Decoy Octopus, Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, and Liquid Snake. Anyways, here, I thought this part was, like, impossible to avoid, but actually, I learned that even if you don't press the button, you don't take any damage. The one that's actually hard to do is the one, like, which happens after this one. But this one, you can do nothing and still take no damage, which is slightly humorous. But yes, like, his analysis, like, of Vamp interests me, like James Howell's analysis, but I'm also slightly baffled because some of these, like, connections are just, like, so out there. Like, you know, like I mentioned before, Vamp is like Decoy Octopus because they're both accidentally killed by the protagonist, but unlike Decoy, Snake learns he died, Raiden learns Vamp actually survived. Vamp's first boss fight arena is designed very similarly to Ocelot's fight in 1. It's a square room with a dangerous obstacle in the middle you have to avoid, and like the Ocelot fight, you have to take the correct pot shots at him to deal damage while avoiding their impressive projectiles. And like Psycho Mantis, they both have a gimmick which doesn't allow you to land a shot until you're aware of the gimmick. Psycho Mantis has the controller port, and with Vamp, you can't land a shot until you let go of the L1 button. Hey, Mr. Ofmyseat, my seat, you just took damage right now, you took damage right now! No, I didn't. What the fuck is this, 1984? Yes and no. So, you can't avoid that piece of damage she deals to you, but when you check the game over screen, the game still counts your damage taken as 0. So I'm actually curious if you know, if you take all the damage during the torture sequence, if that also counts as 0, but in this video, we're never going to find out because I successfully never take damage during the torture sequence. But yeah, even with that little piece of health taken away, it still counts as 0 in the game over screen, and it's not going to show up in this video, but when I die in the final boss fight just to check my stats, I saw that it was 0, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty freaking sweet, man. So to backtrack to Vamp, yeah, no, you can't hit him if you're holding down the L1 button. Okay, is this even true? Is this even a true story? Because I never knew this. Are you sure you're right about this, Howell? Because what do you mean? I feel like if that was a very important thing to his fight, more people would mention it. But no, I mean, apparently it's a thing which happens, but just people don't mention it that much because they either cheese the fight or they just keep pressing the L1 button anyways. They like go at it at the exact right time. Just like, I don't know if like you can compare the Psycho Mantis controller thing with the Vamp thing. Like, if you call your codec team while fighting Vamp, do they literally tell you, let go of the lock-on button, and then you can defeat the Vamp, and the door just opens? This section can be a bit tricky, because basically you have to like cross when the camera's not looking at you, and will also cross when this guy's not looking at you. And I think there is a faster way to do this, but I'm very paranoid, and also it seems like whenever you go on this metal like grating, it makes a loud noise, and sometimes you can do like flips to not make a noise, but sometimes I do a flip and I do make a noise, and it's just like very confusing to me. Mind you, I guess this strategy is better than the one I did previously where I waited in a cardboard box, but I'm still waiting to cross, so I'm still wasting time I don't really need to waste. So today I went to the film festival to watch No Other Choice by the same director as Old Boy, The Handmaiden, Decision to Leave, and those are amazing movies. But this film, his newest film, No Other Choice, was sold out, and the only way to get tickets is in a rush line. And you should watch my All Chicago International Film Festival films ranked to get more information on what a rush line is. But in previous experiences, if I show up 4 hours early for a very popular foreign film, I'm not going to get in. So I decided to show up 6 to 7 hours early, and then after 2 hours of being the only person waiting there, someone actually canceled their ticket and the staff told me about it, and then I bought a ticket, so now I don't have to wait in the rush line anymore. That's why I got that little interruption in the middle of the video like 2 minutes ago. I'm going to return to a previous point I was talking about from Jack Howell's essay, that Vamp is also like Sniper Wolf, but in the second fight. And kind of the subversions just show their face here, or what? Yeah, the subversions show their face here, because Sniper Wolf hides herself from you when you're sniping her. Vamp shows himself proudly, like in broad daylight while holding a hostage. He's basically like insulting you. And yeah, once you defeat Sniper Wolf, like an incredibly emotional death happens. Once you defeat Vamp, he doesn't die. You can actually see him in like the final scenes of the game, just in the crowd. He's alive! He's actually alive, and not only that, he's like Liquid Snake. You know, something which I never really like noticed is that in this game in particular, he actually has like the same sort of trench coat as Liquid Snake. Like it's a bit more green, but you know, they're both shirtless dudes like rocking a little coat. Like, that's crazy. And just like Liquid Snake takes so much punishment throughout the events of the first game. Like, he dies in a helicopter, he gets shot multiple times during the escape, he crashes his car with yours at the very end of the escape, and he's still alive. And the only time Liquid Snake dies is when Foxdie gets involved, which is basically the Deus Ex Machina. So here's Vamp going through all the same motions, except this time he doesn't even die. The story doesn't want him to die, so he just keeps living. Deus Ex Machina is not strong enough to get Vamp. And you know what? Metal Gear Solid 4 actually pushes further on the Liquid Snake comparisons, because he's basically like Raiden's Liquid Snake. Hell, the final fight which Raiden has with Vamp is on top of a Metal Gear Rex, and the fight ends with Vamp falling to his death, just like Liquid Snake in the first Metal Gear Solid. I mean, hey, Metal Gear Solid 4 basically just like takes a bunch of stuff which happened in every single game beforehand and just puts it into one big mega game. But yeah, I never really noticed that one. So here, I thought this section was going to be hell, but these first two rooms are actually easier than you would expect, because instead of like fighting with the sword and risking your life, you should actually hang back, just kind of stand up in this cover spot, and they're never going to hit you for the most part. It's actually surprising just how bad their aim is. Like, the tanker ambush from the tanker section is actually much harder than this. Now, there will come a point later where I'm going to crouch down, but when I crouch down, I'm going to use the peeking buttons to basically peek over the cover the entire time. So yeah, you defeat those guys, and then you crouch here, you kind of peek up, and you want to defeat all the gun enemies, like non-lethally, before the sword enemies get way too quick to your position. And if you have good timing, then this shouldn't really be too hard, and also Snake should really help out here. But sometimes an annoying thing that can happen is that a sword enemy will be right in front of you, and he'll block the non-lethal tranquilizer dart, which you're trying to shoot into the gun enemy. But yeah, and also it would have been nice to have a little bit more sniper rifle ammo, because that sniper rifle is really, really useful to use. And I think in the HD collection, this might be slightly harder, just because I think the game might actually be darker to look at, because the blacks are sharper, the black colors in this sequence. But yeah, the tricky part of this whole thing is, okay, actually there's 4 parts to this, and this part's not hard either. Just kind of get here, like kind of crouch, but then do peeking for the rest of this, and you should be fine. And yeah, on extreme difficulty, if you're not like, doing things very quickly, Snake can actually die. Snake dying in this sequence is not something exclusive to DSP. It's something which can happen on the hardest difficulties of the game, because Snake is just very bad at keeping himself alive. Something else is that if your health bar is really low, Snake will switch to the M4, and the M4 is a much better weapon than the pistol, so he's really good at that. So my strategy here is wait for him to do that animation, throw that, cross the threshold, throw another one for safety, and here you kind of have to pray that the enemies get stunned by this, because what you have to do is you have to hold yourself up against the wall, and then you have to like go into first person, do the combo, then when you're facing the wall, after doing the combo, when you do the flip, you go forward and let go of the first person button, and it's like, on the edge of my seat, what do you mean when you flip? When you do that combo in third person, you know that Raiden does a little flip kick? Well, if you do it in first person, your vision will actually flip to face the wall. And when it faces the wall, you have to like let go of the first person button and move forward. But on the edge of my seat, that's a really fast frame. That's like basically like less than a second. How do you do it? Yeah, how do you do it? It's fucking hard. It's so hard. But at the very least, that's why I made a save specifically for that section. And for this section, like this strategy was very strange. Like, it's a little easier to execute than the strategy for the previous room, especially, but it's such a strange strategy. I don't know why specifically the game does it, but for this part of the game, you have to stun Snake, and the way I do it is I don't even, like, use the lock-on button. I just kind of, like, aim in the general direction of Snake with the trank, and I don't move, and then I hit him with a trank, and then he'll go to sleep, and then run all the way here as fast as possible before any of the enemies can get a hit on you, and then just kind of spam the coolant, and you're going to spam it for, like, a minute or so. Like, the guide I saw, the IQ gameplay, basically says that once you hear the drums, like, kind of, like, this music is built of many, many layers, but once the music reaches the point of the drums being the only layer in the song, then you wait like another 10 to 15 seconds, and then you pretty much like knock out all 6 of these guys. And you can do it with a melee combo, kind of like bowling pins, where they all fall down each other. But the way I do it is I kind of cartwheel into one group, and then I cartwheel into the other group, and then somehow that works. But somehow I do that same thing in other attempts, and it doesn't work. Like, it feels like a crapshoot. There is a method here, but it's pretty crapshooty. And also, don't hold down the button the entire time, or you'll run into that situation where you kind of have to shake the coolant a bit to get more coolant air to come out, and you don't want to be in that situation, so every now and then you have to let go of the button. But yeah, no, this is the part. These are the parts which I did not know damage in my original video, and I'm just so glad that I can finally know damage it now. And then boom, boom, boom. This one was so weak because I could have failed. And also, Snake does have to be knocked out. However, if you try to knock out Snake in a later portion of this fight, it doesn't work because the enemies wake him up. So it has to be at the very beginning of this encounter. It's a very strange thing, but it's a very important thing. Also, why did I have the bandages equipped when I was doing that sequence? Because every like video I see, which pretty much teaches you how to do that glitch, is like, oh, be sure to equip the body armor. You know, you might need the body armor. And I was just kind of wondering, are they telling me to equip the body armor just so I can tank some more damage? Or is having body armor equipped like actually essential to glitching the game? Because I never picked it up because I'm never gonna take damage, so I never need the body armor. And also the body armor looks ugly, dude. It's this weird green coat you put on top of Raiden. Ew, dude, I want to see the ribs. So I was like actually stressed out, like, do I have to repeat my entire thing over again? Do I have to come up with a different strategy? And you know, given how hard it is to glitch through that door, I was like, oh, I think I really do need that body armor. But as it turns out, no, you don't. Do you need the bandages? No, but I think the bandages kind of activate a sort of placebo effect for me. So, you know, if you want to go through that door, you need those bandages. In James Howell's essay, he brings up that the arena for the Metal Gear Ray fight is copied from the Metal Gear Solid 1 VR mission mode, where you can ogle PS1 babes, but now in Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden must serve his role and be ogled by the player as a PS2 babe, PlayStation 2. The babe? Does the term babe work for dudes? Is babe like a neutral term for dudes and dudettes? Like, you know, hey, babe, I'll let you go out in style. Here's your new cardigan sweater. Hope you like it. Oh, thanks, babe. Did you know that taking the Pentazyme will make Emma's O2 gauge go down slower because the drug slows down Raiden's heartbeat? Think back to the cutscene of you, like, telling Emma we're gonna go swimming. Raiden tells her to listen to his heartbeat, so if you slow down your heartbeat, Emma will count the numbers slower, and you tell her to count to 100, and then, like, you know, start worrying about stuff. You know, like, by the time she's done counting to 100, you, the player, should have successfully transferred her, you know, away from being underwater and drowning. So if you slow down the number counting, then you make her breathe more better. I mean, I never would have thought those things could be related, but yeah, they are. And yeah, for that Metal Gear Ray fight, you pretty much shoot the legs of all of them, and you kind of go like the middle one, then the right one, then the left one. You kind of keep repeating that over and over until one of them, like, you know, jumps on top of here, or until one of them starts shooting missiles. And then we have to defeat 20 of these back to back to back. It's a 15-minute like barrage of constant Metal Gear Rex boss fights, and it's an amazing fight. I mean, yeah, these things are pretty like simple to take out, but once you got it down, it's just really nice. And you want to stay away from these things so that it doesn't do its laser attack. The laser attack is one of the most worrisome things in this entire like game. And also like the rocket knee. The rocket knees give me just way too much stress. And also you want to like make sure that you're far away enough from the Metal Gear Rays that are going to jump on board before they stomp you to death. And also one good thing to do is actually just keep moving left or keep moving right and just like stay off center from the Metal Gear Ray, because if you stay off center, they constantly have to readjust themselves to face you and actually start an attack. If you stand right in the middle of a Metal Gear Ray, it's just going to do one of its attacks, and you don't want that to happen. You want them to kind of just shuffle their legs around and go hee hee. And, you know, because it gives you more time to prepare yourself and land a shot, you know, so on and so forth. And yeah, something I noticed on the PlayStation 2 version of this game is that I feel like the blood and gore effects of like damaging these Metal Gear Rays is more pronounced here than it is in the HD collection. Like, I might be crazy, but like the bruising you can do to the knees is just so graphic, and also the way the blood spills out is like a lot more graphic and upsetting here than it was in the HD collection. And of course, the blur effects from the Stinger is super dramatic, so it makes everything a lot more intense and, you know, blurry to look at. You know, the blur effect makes things blurrier. Who would have thunk? So anyways, let's talk about the creative gene again. So unlike conventional train novels, Hanku has no murders, no terrorists, and no record-breaking disasters. This is on page 55. I just thought that was a really funny thing to bring up. Like, this train story is not about terrorists, you know, as they usually are. I mean, hey, a lot of train stories are about people taking over a train and terrorizing the people on it, but just, it felt like a weird thing to mention. And also, Kojima has this really big fascination with a certain train, like, railway from his childhood, kind of serving like a time machine when he rides it, because, like, you know, even 20 years on, like, getting on that train just reminds him of so many things that happened in his childhood, and it's pretty much just like a direct transmission to that point in his time. Like, of his childhood. So yeah, I think that's a really great metaphor. So, and also, I want to talk about memes because Kojima insisting on using the word memes to mean like the academic definition of like the one that Richard Dawkins like, you know, kind of introduced, that, you know, we have genes to pass on our genetic material, and then we have memes to pass on our memetic material, you know, like digital ideas, worldview, cultures, things that can't be passed on through genes. Meme does not mean funny joke that we saw that gets really popular. It has a more classical definition which encompasses so much more, like about culture and all that. And Kojima's really big on just saying memes to mean passing on cultures here, or important ideas, art, so on and so forth. But I feel like Kojima insisting on meme being this really serious term is kind of like how people insist that when they use the word gay, they mean, I'm talking about being happy. I am not gay. I am not homosexual. I'm just happy. You know, when nowadays you say the word gay, it's like, you mean gay, right? Or when people, like, you know, they'll say bitch and be like, dude, I don't mean like bitch, I mean like the literal definition of bitch, you know, I literally mean female dog, dude. Like, what's wrong with a female dog, dude? They're freaking awesome and so cute and pretty. Oh, okay. Oh, you're such a bitch, oh my god. You know, like, it just feels, it's a bit absurd. But I'm gonna let it slide with Kojima. I think he's earned it. I think he's earned the usage of the word meme, however he wants to use it. I guess what really brought it to my attention is that the creative gene is kind of split into two big parts. The first part is him talking about a bunch of books that inspired him, and the second part, he still talks about a few books, but it's more like movie inspired and a bit of music here and there. And in the first section, it's basically like 3-page essays on every single book he wanted to mention, and at the end of every single 3-page essay, you know, Kojima will say the book's history, what he liked about it, you know, like when he encountered it, like in his life. And then, like, the final sentences will be like, you see, this author, they're trying to spread a certain transgressive meme onto the modern audience, and I think that's very cool. But, like, when every single essay in that first part ends with, like, that same exact structure, it gets a little monotonous. It's like, these memes, freaking sweet. You get to the next part. These memes, very scary. The next part. These memes, harrowing. I don't know. I mean, mind you, the part 1's title is called My Lovely Memes, so, you know. The second part, he kind of abandons that whole shtick and just talks about what he likes, and he has to end it without mentioning memes, and I just found that more interesting to read. I mean, after a certain point in part 1, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, memes this, memes that. I'm sorry, I don't really subscribe to the Richard Dawkins version of memes. The memes which are happening right now is like, damn, Daniel! Did I fucking date my video? Yes. Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat. Why did you not mention a more modern meme? If I mentioned something more modern, it would date the video harder! It'd be worse! You don't want me to mention what's currently popular right now. It's terrible, dude! So anyways, let's move on. Kojima is a fan of the I Spy books, and that's why Kojima was inspired to make spy espionage video games like Metal Gear Solid. In fact, comparing this to Metal Gear Solid 2, AI stands for Albert Einstein. That's why it's so smart. And there's also this thing with Kojima, like mentioning all the books he's inspired by. There's kind of like this myth that, oh, I hate that laser attack so much. It comes out so fast, you're not prepared for it, because every single other attack has this really nice delay where you can kind of get away from it. But the laser attack, you just kind of like leans back and then leans forward, and it's going like, oh, it's so terrifying. So you really want to keep distance every single time he shoots that laser attack. But yeah, Kojima is a Japanese man, and he reads books in Japan. Sometimes it's really interesting how he'll mention a really famous English book that didn't come out until way later in Japan because he was waiting for a translation. And then some of his favorite books are still not translated in English. So there's like certain books he describes that I think sound really cool and I want to read them, and then I found out, oh yeah, there's no English translation for it. Tough luck, you fucking Westerner. No, you know, no translation for you, Latino man. Ah! But yeah, one of those books is called Hoiryu, and it's like this book about this guy stuck on an island. No, these like group of people stuck on an island. Like the first part is like survival, and the second part is like reclaiming your place in the world. It sounds really awesome. That sounds like a great book to read, but it's not translated yet, so that's the tragedy there. Now, I don't know when Hoiryu gets mentioned, but it is one of the books he mentions, I think, like near in the first part of the Creative Gene. On page 70, he mentions this book called Coin Locker Babies. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that phenomenon. Or like some like mothers who don't want their child, they'll like hide them in a coin locker, and well, that was a big plot point in Yakuza 7, and that made interesting use of that. But this book has nothing to do with Yakuza 7. In fact, the way Yakuza 7 uses that plot point seems to be completely different than how this book does it. So yeah, I want to read that book. It sounds interesting. I think Coin Locker Babies is translated, so I'm in luck there. I actually didn't elaborate on what the myth I was talking about is. So the myth with Kojima is that the only thing that, he used to like make games or something, okay, it's really weird to phrase this, but that Kojima is a lover of film, and some people like kind of perpetrate the myth that the only things that like Kojima knows is movies, so he rips off movies and he watches movies. So, but the thing is, he's also like really well read in terms of books. So, for writing the story of Metal Gear Solid 1, he didn't just watch Escape from New York like 50 times. No! Some of the structuring for Metal Gear Solid 1, he took from some of the novels he read as a child. In fact, he didn't just watch movies and then start writing. He actually like wrote a lot of short stories and books in his high school years, and they were never published because they weren't all that good. I mean, Kojima says so himself, but he practiced. He actually like tried to make some stories. He got familiar with the form, and then he's writing all these game stories. So his writing stuff didn't just come out of nowhere after he watched enough movies or failed to become a filmmaker. There's a lot more going on with like how he became the artist that he is, the artist or director that he is today. I just feel like that's important to mention. Sometimes people's stories get simplified in terms of what they do. Anyways, let me mention something which happens on page 95 of The Creative Gene. It's a quote. This is the quote. Her contemporaries, Tatsuhiko Shibusawa and Yuki Mishima and others, did much to disseminate transgressive and non-heteronormative memes. And this is in reference to the author, Hiroko Minagawa. And I believe that Kojima continues this tradition onwards in Metal Gear Solid 2. By sculpting Snake and Raiden with monstrous dump trucks, he too disseminates transgressive and non-heteronormative memes. The word meme, I have to keep making fun of it. It makes the great work of these authors sound silly, because I feel like the average Twitter user creating a video of like Bridget and that horrid yellow cat at Burger King also disseminates transgressive and non-heteronormative memes, and it's miserable, dude. This section right here, I didn't think this was possible. You can no damage this section if you spam the button hard enough, and it just kind of makes me wonder just how much harder is it to do this, like, torture sequence on European Extreme. It must be harder, right? Because, like, I used to think this was impossible, but, like, how is this possible on Extreme? I mean, if you look at Snake, you actually gain, like, a little bit of life back. So, the best strategy is, okay, by the way, once it starts, your camera flips immediately to Solidus there, so go to Snake quickly, and then after that, you have to spam that button for dear life. I did this on stream, so you can just see just how red my face got from like how stressed I was from pressing that button. I look like a bizarre creature, but also my Elgato Facecam Pro, I think the color balance, the white balancing on it was really strange, and it made me look a lot more red. I think I had it like on auto white balance, so it can make your skin tone look just utterly like ridiculous. And also, I got a phone call while rewatching my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video. And the phone call started with, "Nobody is available to take your call at this moment." You called me! You called me! Fuck you, man! So, I don't like those type of phone calls. But another detail I noticed in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video is that I say that the boss fights in Metal Gear Solid 1 are better, and I just don't know if I agree with that anymore. Metal Gear Solid 2 has less boss fights, but I think like on a boss-to-boss basis, they're usually better than the ones in the previous games. I think the one which I have a hard time saying is better than the one in the original game is maybe FATMAN. Because Vulcan Raven is such a sick fight, but FATMAN is really fun. It's like a cat and mouse game, while Vulcan Raven was more of a stealth encounter. They're both really dope fights, but I think Vulcan Raven like edges out FATMAN slightly, just because like the snowball effect of the FATMAN fight just makes it a really frustrating encounter. But the fact that that fight can snowball so hard is something that's like really fun and just kind of keeps you on your toes. Like, I mean, and also the Harrier fight, big improvement over the Hind D. The Hind D sucks in Metal Gear Solid 1. I don't like it. It sucks in Metal Gear Solid 1, and it also sucks in the Twin Snakes for different reasons. In Metal Gear Solid 1, it's just such a slow, boring fight. In the Twin Snakes, it's stupidly fast and frustrating. It's a ridiculous fight to keep up with, especially for No Damage. It fucking sucks. I hate it! So there's that there. And the sniper wolf fights are just too simplistic. I mean, mind you, the Vamp 2 fight is also simplistic, but I don't even count it as a fight, you know what I mean? It feels like weird to count it as a fight. And like the final boss of Metal Gear Solid 1 with Liquid Snake, the melee system is not as fun as the melee system here. I like fighting Solidus better than I like fighting Liquid Snake. Sword combat is better than hand-to-hand combat. I mean, the best final boss fight is still in Snake Eater, to this day, in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, because 4 doesn't beat it, 5 doesn't beat it, Portable Ops and Peace Walker don't beat it. I haven't played Ghost Babel, so I guess I gotta hop on Ghost Babel to have a full opinion on that. I do like this final boss fight, but it does feel like he has way too much health, especially on these higher difficulties like Extreme. Like, it takes forever for this guy to go down. So there's this cheese strategy you can do where basically you do 2 hits, you wait for him to recover a little bit, and then like you hit him, and then like you hit him while he's like, you know, recovering, and he should block your attack. And when he blocks your attack, he'll retaliate with a kick attack. So then you block that, you do another 2 hits, and you kind of keep that loop going. However, that loop is kind of boring, so instead I'm doing this thing where I'm just landing a full combo. I'm trying to get away from him so that he does his missile thing, and then I jump in and I hit him. Before, I used to think that the way to avoid this missile attack was to pretty much fall off the map and just kind of like use the iframes of getting on the ledge, but you don't even have to do that. You can just like roll into him and pretty much avoid the missiles that way, but you want to roll into him after he shoots like a 3rd missile, because if you roll into him too quickly, he'll actually like buffer out his attack and like not complete it and just do another attack. Like, he'll shoot 2 missiles and then he'll hit you. I don't know if it's already happened in this footage, I haven't paid attention too much. And I gotta say, like, the clashing animations or the clashing effects, like whenever you like clash swords with this guy or against his block, like the little orange like flares that show up, the orange like glow that shows up, it looks really, really nice. And when rewatching this fight in the HD collection, it still looked nice, but I just wanted to mention it because it does look pretty swell. And then, like, the second phase is the one that's, like, really tough to deal with, because if you don't block him correctly, you die. So, pretty much, like, here, I actually do want to do the loop, and whenever I fail to do the loop, I get really scared. But pretty much, when you get scared, go all the way to the end of one side of the map, and then block against a wall, just to kind of, like, cut off any, like, you know, weird angles he could hit you from. So here I want to talk about some other things which is not related to this final boss fight. I feel like this boss fight's pretty self-explanatory, you know, aside from the fact that sometimes I fail to do the loop, and it's just so weird. Like, I kind of wait for him to cross his swords in his animation and then I swing, but sometimes I swing and it works, and sometimes I swing and it just goes past his guard despite the fact that he's, like, adjusting his guard, and it's just very strange. Maybe it's, like, the way I'm positioned on the map or something. One thing you do not want to do is you do not want to be facing that ledge and like, wait for, like, Solidus Snake here to kick you, because he can kick you off the ledge, and then when you're trying to get up on the ledge, he might do like the fire dash, and you might actually get caught up in the fire and just take damage that way. So just don't fall over from like one of his kicks. It's like the worst way to go. And also, this doesn't really happen in my attempts on the PS2 version, but when I was doing the HD collection version in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, I mentioned that like he has a 3-hit combo. He has like 2 different 3-hit combos he can do. Actually, he has like 3 or 4 different 3-hit combos he can do. But one of the 3-hit combos he can do is that he does like the one attack where he just swings his swords up and swings them all the way down. That is an unblockable attack, so you have to watch out for that. And also, one of the more devious things that Solidus can do is that he can do 2 hits of his 3-hit combo. He can fire dash away from you, and then like go fire dash into you again, and then do another combo. Like, he can cancel out his attacks. Is he gonna do it? There, he's doing it right now. I mean, it looks super cool, but it's one of the scariest things he can do. So you have to be really, really careful whenever that happens. So yeah, in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, I noted that Emma seems to have way less oxygen as I went along, and that is because if she takes damage, her endurance lowers. And this is also true of your hanging ability. I mentioned the hanging ability thing like before, but this also applies to swimming. So I don't think there's any way to like upgrade your swimming ability. There's no way to upgrade Emma's swimming ability, which is the most important one. And yeah, you just have to be good at the game. In this run, I am good at the game, but in my original Metal Gear Solid 2 No Damage video, I wasn't that good at the game. And here I'm going to let the credits play out, specifically because the credits runtime actually like gets added to like the end game time of your entire playthrough. So the credits can actually go on long enough that you go over 3 hours and then lose your ability to get the big boss rank. That doesn't happen with me. I get like 2 hours and 52 minutes, which is really weird because once I compiled all my footage together, this is a 2 hour and 50 minute video, not a 2 hour 52 minute video. So what happened to those other 2 minutes? I guess like the times I was like pressing the save button kind of like clocked into that. So, I mean, like, the way I edited these segments together is that whenever I would enter an area, I would just splice in me entering that area from, like, the new save. I mean, hey, I put the time codes in the description so you can kind of see where I split it, but the splication is smooth, and you wouldn't notice it unless I, like, mention it. But there might be, like, a few key things which make it kind of possible. Like, sometimes when you're loading a save, the black screen lasts longer than when you're just playing the game normally, so on and so forth. If you know, you know. So yeah, there's the part where you have to knock out the 2 guards before this. Oh, I already mentioned this. And 5th save steps. Oh, I already mentioned this. In my original Metal Gear Solid 2 no damage video, I found out. I already mentioned this. In the sniping section, you can. I already mentioned this. In James Howell's essay, Snake is Gray Fox in the second game, but with the outcomes of his role completely flipped from the first game. In the first game, Gray Fox fights Snake and then helps him. In the second game, Raiden isn't important to Snake, and Snake betrays him near the end of the game. The cyborg ninja in 2 even helps him betray Raiden. Kind of like the ghost of Gray Fox from the first game betrays you in the second one. I mean, well, Snake is a little bit nicer, like, after all this, but, like, it just kind of, like, flips your expectations all over the place. And another part of James Howell's essay is that he brings up how the climax of the game, giving you the sword, forces you outside the first-person perspective, which you would rely on with the gunplay, and instead into third person, removing you from Raiden slightly. Raiden is coming into his own person. He's using a weapon which he's best with, which he knows about. He's not, like, fighting like Solid Snake, he's fighting like Raiden. However, I will say that this reading suffers a little bit when I never use the sword to no damage both Tengu fights. I'm gonna have to say it, Raiden's freedom is suboptimal to my strategies. But yeah, I also have a tough time seeing third person as less immersive than first person. Like, I feel like a lot of third person games have just as much immersion as first person. Sometimes an over-reliance on first person can be detrimental in its own way. So I guess like that sort of reading, I kind of like conflict there because I feel like first person and third person are not that far apart. Another part of his essay is that he brings up the political philosophy of Perry Shelby. And he puts it into context that Shelby wrote that individuals must often submit to unavoidable coercive forces despite their individual wills, even while they themselves help to create those forces by living within society. Individuals must submit to social pressure such as civic law if they want to remain a part of society, and this is basically Raiden's dilemma in Metal Gear Solid 2, as he seeks to be his own person, but outside forces trap him into the role of Solid Snake, the legendary warrior, if he seeks to survive the nightmare he's living through now. And I find the connection to America in Metal Gear Solid 2 a bit strange. It's kind of hard to see Metal Gear Solid 2 as this like New York game, because you never really spend time in New York. You're always on this like offshore oil plant or on a boat. Like the New York vibe only really like shows up in maybe certain motifs in like the soundtrack, which this game's soundtrack is phenomenal. Oh my goodness, it's so nice. It's such a nice soundtrack. But James Howell has some interesting points on how this game connects to America. He mentions how Raiden and Solidus fight on top of Federal Hall, where freedom was born, quotation. And this is the fight where Raiden is fighting for his freedom. And by the end of the fight, he's kind of like taking a victory all his own. Because this is like the first boss fight in the entire game where Raiden fights him, the player beats him, and the cutscene afterwards shows Raiden in victory. Not like the enemy doesn't get away, his victory isn't taken away from him. He actually earns the victory. The player and Raiden complete the same goal together. So, like, you know, it's a big moment for him. And yeah. And also another thing, Snake is Godzilla and Raiden is King Kong. What the hell does that mean? Because they do mention King Kong and Godzilla in this game, but what was the point of all that? Well, Godzilla was an experiment by the Japanese government which goes haywire and pretty much starts screwing things around and adopts his own will. Snake is an experiment from the Les Enfants Terribles thing, which goes haywire against his creators and goes and pretty much adopts his own will. Like pretty much like forcing things, going against his genetic destiny to do what he sees fit. King Kong is a monster that gets captured and taken away from the jungle and forced to be shown around and paraded in the city. Raiden is a child soldier which gets captured by Solidus Snake and taken to the city to undergo a training program to become an artificial Solid Snake. I mean, okay, the particulars of who wants Raiden to be Solid Snake gets a little bit muddy because Solidus is also being manipulated, but they follow the same structure. So now, King Kong at the end of his movie dies. Raiden gets a chance to be free, so now will he return to the jungle? Will he adopt a will of his own? Another thing with Raiden, which, I mean, maybe this is very obvious, but I just want to mention, Raiden's a father. Solid Snake is sterile because he's a weird experiment. The Les Enfants Terribles clone experiment, he can't have children. That's something which is unique to Raiden specifically. He can build a family. And, you know, I guess, like, people don't really, like, note that because people don't like the relationship between Rose and Jack in this game. They're always complaining at each other, but, like, just the fact that he has that beautiful opportunity I think is really gratifying, and for the game to basically end on that is just a great way to Raiden to take his individuality. And I'm going to pretty much circle back to the creative gene, that I think a big lesson which Kojima I think tries to impart from the gene is that you can't create a unique style from just watching the things you like. Watching things you hate, engaging with experiences which are distasteful to you, will blossom a much more unique taste because it will reinforce why you like the things that you love. And it'll become more specific in your mind how to express yourself. So you have to go through some of the dirt and the grime and rain to, you know, create your own rainbows and sunshine and bunnies and bitches and all that, female dogs and all. It's very important. Kyle Cooper, what are you doing here? I hope the things I'm mentioning aren't like too obvious or pedantic to listen to and have been somewhat interesting, because I want to mention another thing. In the making of documentary, they reveal that they show stones of Roman numerals in the opening intro of the game as a way of showing how memes were first recorded. The intro then like transitions to paper and then digital info. I never picked up on that like a visual imagery or metaphor. Is it a metaphor or is it a poetic thing? Because like, yeah, Roman numerals are like written on stone. That is like a mimetic thing. And then a paper, books, literature, and then the digital information, how it all skyrockets like that visual in the very beginning opening like movie cinematic of the game is very important. I just never picked up on that. I feel so stupid. And also, the final AI conversation has become famous for its exceptionally grim take on digital information. And the one drawback of this is that people in the modern day take out that moment out of context and categorize Metal Gear Solid 2 as a bit of a completely hopeless narrative. And I feel like the ending of this game betrays that notion. Metal Gear Solid 2 is worried about the dangers of digital information overreach, but also it sees it as a beautiful tool to carry on to future generations the things that Genes never could. Snake says so as much himself directly to the player. With how bleak digital information is in our current year, it's hard to remember Metal Gear Solid 2 still has hope in the internet to some extent. Shout out to I Can't Say Goodbye to Yesterday. Beautiful song, man. Oh my goodness. I was singing a little bit of it during stream. I'm not going to repeat that because I don't have the time to repeat that. And yeah, this is my video on Metal Gear Solid 2, Subsistence on the original PS2, all dog tags, extreme, big boss run. It's crazy how in 2 hours and 50 minutes I feel like I haven't really like given substance to like a lot of stuff in Metal Gear Solid 2. I didn't really go deep into how the cutscenes in this game operates, because for everything great that Metal Gear Solid 2 does with its narrative, also I think some of the ways that it info dumps on you is really frustrating, but I guess that's a video for another time. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for waiting so long for this to come out. It basically took me like 2 months to kind of get this under wraps and, you know, kind of get some other videos under wraps. And here, I'm glad you can skip these cutscenes. If these were unskippable, that would be like a whole other thing. But here it goes. It's going to come up. I've been waiting years for this. Look at my stats there. Isn't that just so nice? And then look at the stats that are going to come up right after this. Dun 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 dun. Big Boss! I'm on the edge of my seat here, and I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then for the next video. Peace out.